If you like the story, you can support the author on Patreon. Link is in the description.
Chapter 26, 16 million personal points / the state of Class D. We've finished discussing your proposal. With the support of all his classmates, Katsuragi Kohei's attitude towards the making of the deal became a little bit tougher. Seeing several people come back to relay the news, Ying Ye Zhenshi already had his answer. Well, congratulations to Katsuragi-kun. You have done a good thing for the class. After receiving a satisfactory response, Ying Ye Zhenshi was all smiles. He was now the beneficiary of 16 million personal points, although it would take 2 or 3 months to receive the entire sum. But that was still also acceptable. After all, this was a sum of personal points that had been difficult for normal students to have even raised in their 3 years. Let's go find our homeroom tutor first. Katsuragi Kohei and the several representatives of Class A went looking for the homeroom tutor of Class A. Naturally, Ying Ye Zhenshi tagged along with the small crowd. Mashima Tomonari, a mature middle-aged man, had a very robust physique, like that of a wrestler. And he felt quite surprised to see Ying Ye Zhenshi amongst the crowd of his students. This is the guy who once hung around our class before, right? What's the matter? Sensei. Katsuragi Kohei straightforwardly explained the circumstances of their visit. Interestingly, he had already explained it many times today. Noticing his teacher's lack of response, Katsuragi Kohei understood his implicit intention. That's not an issue. Mashima-sensei did not refuse the student's request to have him be the notary for the deal. Although he personally felt that it was not necessary to buy to have Class D destroyed, he understood that it was his student's own decision, so he had no intention of preventing them from doing the deal. With Mashima-sensei as the witness, the contract was directly drawn up with both parties having come to an agreement. And just as Class A students looked down on others, they were even more ruthless on themselves. They directly handed over 3 million points to Tomonari Mashima. T/N, total class PP equals 4 million, so each student handed over 75,000 PP. In other words, as long as the class points of Class D were found to be as stipulated in the contract, he would receive a full 3 million there and then. Everything's been settled. I'll be going first then. Please look forward to the results. Ying Ye Zhenshi waved his hand and planned to leave. Now that everything had been resolved, there was nothing left to do by sticking around. Ying Ye-san, please wait a minute. Let's exchange contact information. Also, I have a question to ask you. With you having a lot of points now, it should be to transfer to the first-ranked class, right? Do you already know how many points it takes to transfer? Katsuragi Kohei stopped him in his tracks. Regarding answering this question, Ying Ye Zhenshi did not refuse. His contact list now included many people including Ryuo Kakeru, Ichino's Hanamai, Kanzaki Ryaji, and now Katsuragi Kohei. There were also Hirata Yasuke, the president of the student council, and the secretary of the student council from before. He had as many as 7 important contact numbers saved on his smartphone. Since he was asked a question, Ying Ye Zhenshi responded to it quite frankly. I do have an idea actually. 20 million points is the sum needed to transfer classes. So how about it? Do you also plan to change classes? Looking at Katsuragi Kohei, Ying Ye Zhenshi smiled. Stop joking. Why would I do that? How can a Class A student transfer to another class? He was not a retard. If you are planning to join Class A, we might be able to help you out later. Katsuragi Kohei extended some goodwill towards him. He was also thinking for the benefit of the students in his own class. If he was truly as useful a person as he appeared to be, they didn't mind sacrificing a little bit to bring someone like him over to contribute to the class. It would be a good thing, in fact, to have their class's total number of students increase while another class lost out on such a gem. Of course, this also depended on the number of points that were required to make such a move. Since it was now established to be 20 million points to transfer, he could actually propose to help. Ying Ye Zhenshi had many of the points required for such a move, so it wasn't an entirely bad thing to make the deal with him since they were just facilitating his move. I will contact you if necessary. At that time, I will work hard to pay off all of you guys' efforts. With a polite smile on his face, he didn't stick around for too long and left with a wave of his hand. I have disturbed you enough already, sensei, so we will go back too. Katsuragi Kohei and the Class A students did not stay too long either. They went back and explained the situation to the other students. Once again, his deal had gone very successfully and Ying Ye Zhenshi was very satisfied with the overall outcome. In the next few days, nothing major happened. Although he had betrayed his class, Ying Ye Zhenshi attended lessons openly and was a good student. He went to class obediently each and every day to better understand the situation in his class, to confirm the situation of the other classes, and to make sure that Class D would definitely end up at the bottom, waiting for them to fall into the so-called hell as the seniors had put it. The students of the other classes had been very well behaved and stuck to the contract, at least for these few days, and no one had spread the news yet. Ying Ye Zhenshi was just like a passerby in the first year's Class D. He was like a poor wretch being entertained by the gold, short-haired beautiful girl sitting beside him when he obviously didn't deserve her attention. He was considered a gloomy man in the eyes of his female classmates, and a withdrawn man in the eyes of his male classmates. Finally, today, a week after the entrance ceremony. It was another sunny day, and in the first year Class D classroom. Sure enough, I don't even need to do anything and the class will undoubtedly have no points next month. Sitting on his seat, while playing with the grip strengthener in his hand, he looked around him. The girls who noticed his gaze flicker across them found his sights to be disgusting. But Ying Ye Zhenshi didn't bother with them. Soon, his attention landed on the boys' group. What are these guys doing? They are extremely excited so early in the morning. It's too early in the day to be this excited. Did they find out my identity as a betrayer? Ying Ye Zhenshi guessed. He had been watching them for most of the day. Since having arrived early in the morning, he found that something was wrong with this group of boys. Usually, these were the guys that were very late to the class, and they acted very nonchalant about it, but today they were extraordinarily early. This is very strange. Why did such a thing happen? I'm curious. Chapter 27, The Boys' Chat Group. Ying Ye Zhenshi was not in any group chats with the other guys in his class. No matter whether it be the girls or boys, all considered him a loner and left him alone. Part of the reason was that he himself had missed the window to make friends and isolated himself, but besides that, having learned about the dire situation his classmates would find themselves in, he didn't really want to associate with them anymore. So it was normal for him to be excluded from all the circles. And he would never be included in the girls' circles, even if he tried to break in with a butcher's knife. There was one group chat Ying Ye Zhenshi was a part of, which had more than 30 people in it, and which Kikyo Kushida had dragged him into. There was very little substance to the chat though, and few people even talked in it. Most students were used to chatting in private messages or making small group chats and interacting in that way. Based on what he had heard in the past week or so, there were probably about 20 to 30 small group chats in the class despite there only being 40 students in the class. Hey, what are you planning to do, Ying Ye-san? Do you really not want to communicate with your classmates? I can help you out and go with you if need be. Let's make friends together. While Ying Ye Zhenshi was still looking at the excited group of boys in the corner, Kushida Kikyo approached him and whispered. And as if to intrude upon Ying Ye Zhenshi's personal space, she got up very close while her voice was kept very low, making Ying Ye Zhenshi feel that as long as he moved, his face would be kissed by her. While she was whispering, a burst of hot air landed on his face. On top of that, the girl's fragrance was very strong. No need, Noda-san. Trying to shoo her away by using the wrong name, Ying Ye Zhenshi bluntly tried to drive this female classmate of his away. He didn't know where she got this much courage and enthusiasm to get up so close to him. Are you really sure? I can ask Ike-san to come and invite you. Already accustomed to being referred to by the wrong name, Kushida Kikyo remained calm. Now, she could accept any name he threw her way. No. Ying Ye Zhenshi refused without hesitation. But obviously, this attempt at refusal was useless, and the girl didn't stop with his refusal. When the first lesson of the day was over, Ike Kanji from the back of the class approached Ying Ye Zhenshi. He discreetly glanced at the girl beside Ying Ye Zhenshi, and then spoke softly to the loner. Ying Ye, I have set up a small group with the other guys. We are discussing some important things today which will be relevant to you, so let me add you to it. His tone was very direct, as if he never once thought the person he was offering to add to the group would refuse, giving the boy in question the feeling of being a recipient of some charitable act. Ying Ye Zhenshi looked at Kushida Kikyo. He noticed a slight smile in the girl's eyes, and her fists clenched while pumping them in the air as if in a cheering gesture. That's what Kushida-san said, at least. Since we're all classmates too, we should play together, you know? The main reason I haven't approached you before is that there are too many girls sitting around you. I didn't really want to come here and invite you, and you have been sitting in your seat all this time as well, otherwise I would have invited you. Ike Kanji spoke quickly with a hushed voice. His tone sounded a little impatient, and he fidgeted as though a little uncomfortable just standing where he was. After all, he was surrounded by girls. Right now, he just wanted to return to his friendship circle as quickly as he could. Oh! Responding calmly, Ying Ye Zhenshi was actually quite curious about what they were discussing so animatedly. So, he agreed to join the group. Ike Kanji didn't stick around him for too long and ran away right after adding Ying Ye Zhenshi to the group chat. Watching the boy run away, for a split second, Ying Ye Zhenshi wondered if he had been too prejudiced against his classmates, especially the guys. But after joining the group chat, the thought instantly disappeared. Sure enough, some people just aren't suited to be holding a lot of points. He quickly scanned through the chat log in the group. An announcement text in bold had been posted the previous night, and the group had also been created a few minutes before the announcement was made. Welcome, Ying Ye. With Ying Ye in the chat, we've become a bigger group now. Are you going to place bets too? Just so you know, there's going to be swimming lessons coming up, and we're going to be making a leaderboard of the girls with boob sizes from our class. Take some pictures with your phone beforehand if you get the chance. After a quick sift through the group chat messages, Ying Ye Zhenshi had already understood the situation. No wonder they are so hyper this morning. They really are just a bunch of fools. It's like their heads are just full of boobs and asses or whatever. Going through the texts after the announcement, they had already planned to have a classmate given the moniker Doctor pretend to be sick, and then have him observe and take pictures of the girls in their swimsuits. Later, someone would set up a ranking document and a leaderboard would be established. There was a clear division of labor and teamwork in all this nonsense. They were even planning to arrange some work for Ying Ye Zhenshi, to have him become an accomplice. Although some of the boys expressed that they did not agree with the plan, feeling that doing such a thing was not very friendly, more boys were excited, and so this momentum could not be stopped. It was worth mentioning that Hirata-san seemed to have been excluded from the boys' circles, so he wasn't in the group chat. Besides him, there was another outlier like Kawenji Rokusuk who wasn't in the group. Of course, if it hadn't been for Kushida Kikyo, Ying Ye Zhenshi would also have been excluded from the plan. As for the other boys. So what do you think of all this? Ying Ye should be going through the chat history right now. Make sure you go through everything and read it all properly. There is also an odds table near the bottom. In the group chat, the individuals referred to as the doctor sent an Excel file. The names of all the girls in the class were listed on it, and there were odds beside each one. Having him interact with the file was so that they could assimilate Ying Ye Zhenshi into the plan. The current favorite in the charts for the biggest boobs was a girl called Haruka Hospi. She had odds of 1.8. 55.55%. Ying Ye Zhenshi had heard the name Haruka Hospi before. His gaze inadvertently went towards Haruka Hospi when he noticed the odds. She was a girl with long blue hair, and she was honestly quite beautiful. There was a small tear mole under her eye, which added a bit of a charming aspect to her looks, and she was very well endowed with an average height. No wonder she had been ranked first by the boys. It was important to note that this particular girl was one of the withdrawn, reticent members of the class. Despite that being the case, no pretty girl would be considered unpopular or shunned by the rest of the class. One could tell from that alone, that she was indeed very cute. Chapter 28, The Boys' Abilities/Odds. Perhaps because of Ying Ye Zhenshi's intense staring, Hospi Haruka, who was sitting on her seat, frowned. Glancing at Ying Ye Zhenshi, she quickly took out a textbook to block his gaze, and then slumped down on the table, disliking the thought of being watched. Ying Ye Zhenshi was also used to such a reaction because he had been watching the students of his class this past week as he analyzed them, and his gaze made many of the girls feel uncomfortable and react in different ways. That was also one of the reasons he was so unpopular among the girls, despite him being quite handsome in the first place. But since he was called the sullen guy, the withdrawn guy, and an LSP dirty, old man, there was no chance the girls could appreciate his charms. After confirming Haruka Hospi's looks, Ying Ye Zhenshi quickly went back to look over the odds on the file. He had to hand it to them for taking this task quite seriously and doing a pretty good job at it. Maybe the boys have all their talents directed toward such things. Funnily enough, in the table, the girl with the highest odds was the black-haired girl who radiated off a cold attitude, Horikita Suzuan, and who would have you win more than 30 times your bet as long as she was found to be the winner. But considering her figure, Horikita probably had no chance of winning. She wasn't exactly the type to draw attention towards herself for her large assets, but more her attitude and looks. The chats in the group chat kept flying in. There were still boys betting. And the betting odds kept being updated to match the bets. In addition to Hospi Haruka just now, Kushida Kikyo had also become one of the most popular bets. Regarding sussing out whether she had the biggest boobs, Ying Ye Zhenshi might have had a good chance of winning. After all, the girl often hung around him, and he could inadvertently feel it even if he didn't want to. But Haruki Yamauchi, who had thought about pursuing Kushida Kikyo before, was not supporting Kushida Kikyo now. I want to bet too. Oh, by the way, I am going to bet on Sakura. Looking at the message from Haruki Yamauchi, Ying Ye Zhenshi thought of the girl named Sakura. She was a reserved individual who was isolated in the class, and she was a plain girl who wore glasses. Because he hardly talked to anyone and didn't have many friends, if any, he felt that like Kushida Kikyo, all the good-looking people in the class were probably similar to her. Perhaps because of this, Haruki Yamauchi could speak without any scruples to a reserved girl like Sakura. I'm only telling you about this secretly, but actually, I was confessed to by Sakura. What? Is that true or false? Yes, really, but keep it a secret. Of course, I rejected that kind of inconspicuous girl, but I saw her in casual clothes at that time, and she was actually quite big. While he had asked to keep it a secret, the voice he used while excited was loud enough for the students in front of him to hear him speak. Ying Ye Zhenshi could already see many girls looking at them with disgusted expressions as if looking at filth. Stupid, even if she's not cute, and she is plain looking, wouldn't she glow up as the years go by? Big as justice, haven't you heard of that? If they are really that big, isn't that more important than being in a relationship? If the girl is not at Kushida's or Hospi's level, then I don't want her, and frankly, I'm not interested in that sort of plain-looking girl. Kanji lamented the loss, but Haruki Yamauchi retorted as though he were in the right. Those who didn't know about Haruki Yamauchi may have really thought that what he said about the shy girl confessing to him was actually true. Because no one else was present to witness the scene, Yamauchi spoke without restraint, and no one could stand up to deny his claims. Not only in his group but in the entire classroom, many of the boys and girls were whispering about the confession openly. Having said these words, Haruki Yamauchi felt a little bit smug, especially when he noticed the students beside him, who had been fooled by him, with envy in their eyes. As for the disgusted looks in the eyes of the girls, he directly ignored them. Hearing the voices from behind and reading the texts exchanged, Ying Ye Zhenshi turned around, and sure enough, the girl called Sakura could not be found in her seat. Ying Ye Zhenshi seriously wondered whether she had run away because of them. "I'm speechless. These guys are a bunch of idiots. It feels like a waste of time to associate with them. I thought they were really into something, but I really overestimated them. These guys should just keep fantasizing about boobs and welcome the next month as happy as they are." Ying Ye Zhenshi finally understood the situation in the chat group, and it seemed that this was indeed the case. So he was not interested in it anymore. Others kept urging him to place bets. But Ying Ye Zhenshi chose to run away. Without saying a word, he left the chat group. Why did he leave? Ying Ye Zhenshi. What is he doing? Some small sounds of the boys' confusions came from behind, obviously because they had noticed that Ying Ye Zhenshi had quit the group chat. But, no one came up to him to say anything. After all, with regards to leaving without a word like this, there was really nothing much they could say. In the future, he believed it would be completely impossible to join them again. However, Ying Ye Zhenshi himself didn't feel like blending in with such people anyway. Thinking of associating with such a group like them, and then discussing things like how big a certain girl's breasts were in the class, Ying Ye Zhenshi was disillusioned by the importance of friendships. These guys are finished. Eventually, the classes were over and the lunch break had passed. The long-awaited swimming lesson for the boys finally rolled around. Ying Ye Zhenshi could feel the excited gazes of the boys, as they set off for the indoor swimming pool in their droves. And Ying Ye Zhenshi was completely excluded from the groups of boys. The same was the case for Hirata Yasuke, who was surrounded by beautiful girls. The other to be isolated was the maverick Koenji Rokusuke. As far as Ying Ye Zhenshi was aware, that guy came from a well-known, wealthy family of scholars. He had a strong academic ability and great physical strength, but he didn't take his other classmates seriously at all. He was also a problem boy, and he just so happened to be one of the students who were rejected collectively by the boys. Chapter 29, Locker Room Conflict. As he was about to make his way to the swimming pool, a voice suddenly stopped Ying Ye Zhenshi in his tracks. He was patted on the shoulder, and then a bubbly and gentle figure came into view as he turned to look at who it was. It was evident that the individual had chased after him. "What's wrong? You didn't go with them?" "I spoke with Ike-kun and he said that he would help you to become a part of the group." Seeing Ying Ye Zhenshi was alone, Kikyo Kushida butted into the affairs of someone she thought could be considered one of her many friends at the school to ask about his situation. "I didn't get along with them." Ying Ye Zhenshi glanced at her for a moment and left his answer vague without explaining much. Funnily enough, there were a lot of topics that came to mind in his head, with one of them being his desire to ask the girl before him if she even knew of what they were talking about. Does she know that those guys are discussing her large melons? And they're even making a ranking and whatnot for all the girls. Of course, thought in his head would remain just thoughts, and Ying Ye Zhenshi didn't think he had such a good relationship with Kushida to be telling her of the group's misbehavior anyway. Oh, so that's it. Kushida Kikyo seemed to come to an understanding of what was going on. Then, she continued on the same topic. Then, do you have any goals? Who do you want to make friends with? Whether it be boys or girls, that's fine, since I can introduce you to them. Kushida Kikyo was quite adept at saying misleading things that sounded very ambiguous to him. He wanted to open up her mind and unpick all the decision-making that led to her saying such things. While she stared at Ying Ye Zhenshi expectantly, he felt it was as if the girl hoped that he would choose to ask to become more acquainted with herself. If it had been a boy with poor willpower, he would surely have made a certain choice without hesitating when seeing the watery look in her expectant eyes. Goal? I have no such thing. Ying Ye Zhenshi thought over it for a moment and then shook his head in denial. As far as his current class was concerned, he had no intentions of socializing with anyone in it for now. Sure enough, you do have a secret you aren't telling me. Tell me, what is your goal? Come on, tell me. Tell me. While acting in a cute and coquettish way, she clasped her hands together while staring at him. Kushida Kikyo really wanted Ying Ye Zhenshi to tell her what he was thinking of doing. Unfortunately, by the time they had arrived at the indoor swimming pool, she had not been successful in persuading him to speak. I'm going over to the girls' side. Ying Ye-kun needs to work harder to make more friends, otherwise, you will be lonely. See you. Leaving her words of wisdom, Kushida Kikyo ran towards her friends who were waving her over. Her huge melons shook as she ran, causing the group of boys ogling her to giggle mysteriously. Whether or not she was aware of all this, Kushida Kikyo just displayed a warm and vibrant smile. In the boys' changing room at the indoor pool. In addition to the school's issued swimming trunks, one could also bring their own trunks, as the school had no regulations preventing one from doing so. As soon as Ying Ye Zhenshi walked into the locker room, the once busy changing room became quiet. And Ike Kanji had on a dissatisfied look. Stop talking to Kushida-san. People like you always put on an act to attract the attention of girls like Kushida-san. It's disgusting, and it makes you look like a pick-me bitch. Not like a real man. Leaving these disdainful words, he intended to leave Ying Ye Zhenshi behind. He had vented his dissatisfaction with Ying Ye Zhenshi having quit the chat group and vented his displeasure at having seen Kikyo Kushida and Ying Ye Zhenshi walking together so chummily just now. Not only was it Ike Kanji who ignored him but the other boys too, displaying a clear rejection from the remainder of the boys in his class to his presence. This was a more serious situation than before, but... Idiot! Looking at Ike Kanji who thought he was so manly, Ying Ye Zhenshi uttered the insult disdainfully. This guy is an unequivocal simp. What did you say? Ike, who had been planning to leave, turned around instantly. Beside him, Haruki Yamauchi and Ken Sudo watched the spectacle together. Over the last few days, the trio had clearly built up a pretty decent relationship and stuck mostly together. I said you're an idiot. Are your ears bad or something? Ying Ye Zhenshi had on a rare smile while gazing at the frenzied look of the boy opposite him. Asshole! It was a grave insult to Ike to have been looked down upon by the guy he himself looked down upon. The frenzied boy rushed up to Ying Ye Zhenshi, with his fists raised as he got closer. Stupid! After the third time uttering out some words, Ying Ye Zhenshi's body sidestepped, and with a sore of his foot, Ike Kanji, who was clearly an amateur at fighting, lost his center of gravity. Then, Ying Ye Zhenshi pushed hard on his opponent's unbalanced frame. With that, Ike Kanji's head hit the metal locker behind Ying Ye Zhenshi like the splattering of an egg in the egg and spoon race. Bang! With a loud thud, the metal locker door was left with a dent. And while there was no blood let out, Ike Kanji had a large red mark on his forehead and was left discombobulated and confused. What are you doing? You went too far. Ike, are you okay? At first, his friends had thought that Ike Kanji could get away with bullying their classmate without issue. Unexpectedly though, the situation had turned on its head. One of the two looked at Ying Ye Zhenshi viciously, while the other ran to Ike's side to help him up. I didn't do anything. I was just scared of him rushing up. I wanted to help him after I tripped him up, but he fell too fast. I'm really sorry, Ike-san. Oh, I guess your brain should be working better now, and it won't be full of stupid complaints like the ones from earlier. After all, I doubt it can hold anything like complaints in it anymore since your brain should have turned into meat paste after that crash. Glancing at Ike Kanji who hadn't recovered yet, Ying Ye Zhenshi spoke to himself. You faker! Do you think we're afraid of you? Haruki Yamauchi had become a little timid after the display, but Ken Sudo looked like he was ready to throw hands but was stopped by Kiyotaka Ayanokaji. Ayanokaji, what are you doing? Don't hold me back! Sudo-ken's loud shouts reverberated within the locker room. Chapter 30, The True Colors of Ying Ye Zhenshi. Conflict had broken out. There was chaos in the boys' locker room. The strained relationship between all the parties involved made the situation more tense. At least, no one had yet to step out to help Ike Kanji fight Ying Ye Zhenshi. Fighting in groups was vastly different from just being lazy and skipping classes every so often. If the situation got too serious, there would definitely be trouble or even expulsion. This was something every student knew. And just now, everyone had learned that Ying Ye Zhenshi was clearly not someone just about anyone could bully. He was not the same gloomy student as the one who sat alone in the class. Oh, it seems Ike's friends are not planning to help you out either. I would have thought you guys would come at me together, but in the end, you're all alone. Ike-kun, you were negligent in making real friends. Regarding the fact that he was surrounded in the locker room, Ying Ye Zhenshi was unfathomably looking forward to a fight breaking out, and so started provoking eccentrically. No one had thought that the lonely and gloomy boy in the class would dare to talk to others like this. These are your true colors, Ying Ye Zhenshi. Ying Ye Zhenshi's taunt made many people's facial expressions distort, and it also made Ike Kanji's face turn red. Now that he had regained his senses a little bit, the discombobulated state of his brain had returned to that of the whiny little git. Sure enough, the reason you've been acting so helpless this entire time is to win Kushida's sympathy. When he got to the end of his accusation, his voice became a little louder and hoarse. Oh, if you really want to know, then yes. Ying Ye Zhenshi smiled. Whether it was the case or not, as long as it was the person you disliked who admitted to such things, they would become worried about such a concern. And so he just decided to turn Ike's concerns into a reality. You bastard! Ike Kanji shouted loudly. He wanted to rush for Ying Ye again but was immediately held back by the others. Calm down. We still have to go to class. If you fight here, something might happen. They hadn't mentioned their confidence levels in him fighting Ying Ye Zhenshi were low, but the boys controlled Ike anyway. They were worried about things getting really out of hand. Swimming class is about to start. Have you guys not changed yet? In such a delicate situation, Hirata-san, who had been surrounded by girls before, finally made it to the locker room to get changed. He was a little surprised to see the number of students people still in the locker room. They should have come early to change, no. Oh, yeah, we were just chatting. We're leaving now. What's up with you, Ike? Seeing Hirata's arrival, some people breathed a sigh of relief, while Ike and the others did not continue to stick around. I won't let you succeed. Ike directly ignored Hirata's concern, throwing out a harsh warning and then left. In his head, Ying Ye imagined that he had become the villain who was seducing the beauty Kushida Kikyo. So Ike was probably the hero in his own fantasy. Then I'll look forward to it, Ike-kun. Ying Ye Zhenshi waved his hand, as though seeing off a classmate who he was chummy with. If one hadn't witnessed the situation, one would have thought that the two of them were friends who exchanged Christmas presents and texted all day long. But both of them had their own plans, and Ike Kanji had his plans to make Ying Ye Zhenshi's reputation ruined somehow. And Ying Ye Zhenshi? Well, should I find some more ways to stir up trouble with them? Or how about having them drop out of school, and cleaning out all the useless students in Class D? I just don't know how the school will react to me doing this. Well, they all regard Class D as a gathering of defective products, so they shouldn't care. Snort. Ike snorted coldly and left the scene smoothly. Others, who were about to leave, quickly followed. Most of them didn't want to get involved in this matter. Only Sudo had taken a look at Ying Ye Zhenshi for a moment since he had talked about loyalty, before leaving. In the end, it was only Ayanokji Kiyotaka left, who had held back Sudo as he was worried about what he would do. You'd better. Ayanokji Kiyotaka walked up to Ying Ye and wanted to say something, but... Ayanokji, let's go. Ike's assertive voice came from ahead. I'll be going then. Ayanokji Kiyotaka walked out with a helpless expression on his face. Before leaving, he took a look at Hirata, who was beside him but didn't say anything. His gaze though, was as if to convey some information. Ying Ye Zhenshi stood where he had initially been, unworried about having offended the students in his class. A group of pigs were still just pigs, and it would be useless if they gathered together to fight him. In the end, all they could do was talk a lot of smack but couldn't beat him down. Watching them leave, Ying Ye Zhenshi felt a little insidious desire sprout within. He was curious to know how these guys would react when they received no personal points the following month. The more the students around him acted like this, the more Ying Ye Zhenshi was looking forward to watching them learn about the real circumstances of this school the following month. At that time, if they found out that he had sold out his class, he would have front row tickets to a good show. Wouldn't they try to fight me then? Ying Ye Zhenshi was really looking forward to the beginning of his campus bullying. There was also a subtle smile on his face, as he wondered whether he could take the opportunity to trick them at that time. On the other hand, Hirata looked at all that was going in with a complicated expression on his face. He had actually heard Ike's shout when he entered, so he had come over quickly, but he didn't know what they were fighting about. He had thought that it was Ike and the others who were one-sidedly bullying Ying Ye Zhenshi. Now, it appeared as though the bullying came from both ends. Ying Ye-kun, are you all right? Another problem child? Hirata Yasuk looked at Ying Ye Zhenshi and already felt such a vibe. No wonder he usually resists my invitations all the time. Chapter 31, Yasuk Hirata's Plan. Ying Ye-kun, are you all right? Listening to Hirata Yasuk speaking to him from the side, Ying Ye turned his head to face him. Why wouldn't I be? Nothing happened. His smile had dropped, and he gave Hirata a very succinct response. He didn't care about what the boy found out. Even if the school's mechanics were exposed early, he had other methods to fall back on, so he didn't worry. He didn't say anything more, and took off his clothes, revealing his dense muscles, which had the traces of having exercised for a long time, and which were usually covered by the school uniform. He put on swimming trunks and a swimsuit on top, which had been prepared by him a while back. Even so, one could still see the tight muscle definition beneath the apparel. Then, he left for the pool. Ying Ye Zhenshi, what the hell have you been through? Hirata Yasuk watched Ying Ye Zhenshi's disappearing back. He had a bit of a headache while doing so, as he had seen the boy's figure as he was getting undressed. Not only did he spot the muscle definition on his body, but he noticed how they had become denser from having exercised over time. Ying Ye looked even more fit than himself. Moreover, there were many scars that could be seen on his body, and some even looked like knife wounds. This was not the body of an average high school student. Although he had quickly put on his swimsuit, Yasuk Hirata had seen all this clearly. If he hadn't witnessed the prior altercation, he may have thought that the boy had been from a poor background growing up, which may have resulted in him being bullied in middle school. But with the previous altercation having taken place, he was more inclined to think about Ying Ye Zhenshi's wounds along a different line of thought. But there would obviously be no answer to the many questions in his head, as his figure eventually disappeared into the pool area. It was then that Hirata Yasuk made up his mind. No matter how you lived your life before, I will not let you destroy the harmony of the class. At this time, the priority to watch Ying Ye Zhenshi had risen by several levels in Hirata Yasuk's heart. A classmate who he had once viewed as weak and that needed to be cared for, had now become a ferocious animal that could bully others as he wished in his mind. Though, he could tell that Ike Kanji and the others had been the ones to clash with Ying Ye Zhenshi earlier. All of this would need to be prevented. After quickly changing into his swimming trunks, he headed outside. The indoor swimming pool was a huge swimming pool of about 50 meters. The water looked clean and clear. The environment was great, with some people having been affected by the scene. As soon as he came out, Ying Ye Zhenshi heard the boys screaming all together. Sounds of excitement, and of pity being the most common amongst the shouting. It appeared as though the humiliation from earlier had been long forgotten. Even Ike was very excited now, as he looked at Kushida Kikyo's great body from time to time, and then looked in some other direction. Following his line of sight, he spotted the auditorium above. There were students sitting there, still wearing school uniforms, obviously didn't plan to take part in the swimming class this time, which had Ying Ye Zhenshi wondering if he should have given up on taking part in this class too. But if he thought about it carefully, there was no good excuse he could use to get away with skipping class. After all, girls were born with the advantage of being able to take leave whenever they wanted, especially when their period was here, and the male teacher couldn't even say anything more. He didn't continue on that line of thought though, since he had already changed his clothes, so even if he wanted to skip, he could only do so the next time. If he had known he could do so earlier, he would have let himself get beaten up, and then have taken the opportunity to ask for leave. He could have even claimed compassion for medical expenses and the like. That way he would make Ike into a debt slave there and then. Anyway, the boys were paying attention to who was sitting up above. Sadly for them, one of the girls sat there was the first place contender. Hospi Haruka was sitting there, stroking her pale blue hair. She hadn't intended to join the swimming class at all. When she heard the boys' strange muttering, her eyes became full of disgust and hatred, like that of a girl who had found out someone was peeping at her panties. Naturally, anyone in her shoes would feel disgusted at the thought of dealing with perverts. Ying Ye imagined that some of the boys in the class were eager to be stepped on by Haruka Hospi in their odd fantasies. And these circumstances had made Haruka Hospi give up on taking swimming lessons. She was very sensitive to boys' gazes. Additionally, the strange exchanges between the boys in their earlier classes that day had her give up the idea of ever swimming. She would not take any more swimming lessons. This, naturally, had the boys who had been waiting for a long time to view her assets, feel pity. Why didn't Haruka Hospi participate? Why is it like this? What a pity! I've been looking forward to seeing her in swimwear for a long time. Is she on her period? Damn, the date set can't be perfected. How should we work around this? Kushida-san's boobs are so big. Damn it, I really want to get with Kushida-chan. Are you serious about chasing Kushida? Isn't it only natural? And honestly, she's the one for me. Walking past the boys, Ying Ye Zhenshi could hear their confused and downcast chattering. Haruki Yamauchi, Kanji Ike, and the others seemed to have forgotten the altercation in the dressing room before, and their eyes were all on Kushida Kikyo. Of course, Haruki Yamauchi considered himself as more charitable than the others, as he was interested in the gloomy Sakura too, in all of his magnanimity. Ying Ye wondered if Yamauchi thought about how to win over two girls at the same time and become an alpha male. Seeing the hostile expressions of the boys directed at him as he walked past though, Ying Ye Zhenshi didn't bother with them, opting to go with a provocative smile, and then left quickly. This was obviously an even more infuriating response. Asshole! This guy! Can we beat him up? We have to take him somewhere quiet, and we can't let him get away with this. When Ike saw that smile, he became immediately upset. He spoke towards Haruki Yamauchi, Takeru Sudo, and Kiyotaka Ayanokji. These 3 or 4 were naturally quite close to each other and could share such private words without snaking on each other. The others who had heard Ike saying so however decided it best to not intervene. They were still worrying about their data set and bets. After all, so many female students had asked to take leave, which was beyond their expectations. The betting would not be able to go through in this way. Chapter 32, Can we exercise together sometime? So while the other boys were discussing the problems they faced with the incomplete data set, elsewhere. Are you actually planning to do that? Haruki Yamauchi was skeptical of Ike's sudden proposal, so he didn't immediately agree. With that incredulous response, Ike sported an unhappy look on his face, and then he looked at the other two. His target is also our Kushida. Are you going to let such a cunning guy get away with this? Kanji stepped up his efforts. He knew Haruki very well. Who said anyone was getting away with that? I was just thinking about whether I should bully him too. I was a karate champion in middle school. I analyzed him when we first came to school. Don't you remember when I first went to barge into their conversation, and he didn't dare to say a word? Kushida and I will make an appointment to exercise together later because of that. Haruki Yamauchi spoke proudly while spewing nonsense left and right. He also recalled and exaggerated his victory over Ying Ye Zhenshi. The situation that had happened earlier must have been a misunderstanding. He then looked at Sudo-ken. Even if there were any accidents, there was no need for them to be afraid with Suda backing them. There was also Ayanokji Kiyotaka, but he was considered worse than even Haruki and Ike and at the bottom of the barrel. How could a group of 4 students that had managed to get into the advanced nurturing high of all schools not be able to deal with just one guy like Ying Ye Zhenshi? Humph, if it hadn't been for Ayanokaji who stopped me just now. Sudo-ken looked at Haruki Yamauchi, with a disdainful tone in his speech. Oh, I was just worried about the commotion. And it's not appropriate to fight inside the premises. Ayanokji Kiyotaka came up with an excuse. Forget what happened just now. I just want to know if you can help. The former 3 had immediately agreed, so Ike took advantage of his mini-victory to pursue making friendships, and looked at Ayanokji Kiyotaka. This atmosphere. Ayanokaji Kiyotaka read the mood. If he refused, he would probably be kicked out of the group chat later. I'll help, but tell me in advance since I'm not very good at fighting. Kiyotaka Ayanokji, who was not good at fighting, decided to go along with it. He decided not to leave them with much expectations though. If something happened, he would just lie down and say he'd been taken out. With Suda here, what would you be worried about? We just need to make a plan, find a place where no one is around, or make him out to be the one who started the commotion. When that happens, there will be no way for him to complain, and it would avoid us facing punishment from the school. Ike Kanji seemed to have planned everything out. Haruki Yamauchi and the others were also relieved to hear that Ike didn't just want to rush up to beat the boy senselessly. At least, the most troublesome of circumstances would not happen. I can tell that you at least have this much of a brain. Humph, what are you talking about? I can plan carefully when I want to. It's best to make it so that bastard offends Kushida-sama. Damn it, he's harassing Kushida again. The trio of hostile boys became a quartet when Kiyotaka Ayanokaji decided to join in on the fun. They were already coming up with ways to get back at Ying Ye Zhenshi. But when they looked towards their target, they noticed he was beside Kushida Kikyo, which made them even more envious and angry. Kushida attracted most of the boys' attention. She was usually the one who brought attention to herself, but this time she had gathered everyone's attention as soon as she came out of the locker room. Her melons were much bigger than everyone had initially thought. Her thighs and buttocks were just right and wonderfully plump. She was a fleshy, slightly buxom girl. I wonder if they're talking about her right now. If they keep watching me, I'm sure they will get angry. Those idiots are really brave. Ying Ye Zhenshi looked at the stunned boys who stood a little further away from him. Some people had clearly forgotten they had made a fool of themselves already. He had just found a place to stand around until the teacher arrived. But someone else seemed to be very interested in him as he was sitting alone. When she found him sitting alone by the pool, she approached him directly. She sat by his side and made the boys jealous. Hey, you're actually wearing a bathing suit? It's rare to see boys in swimsuits these days. Kushida Kikyo stared at Ying Ye Zhenshi's abdomen with curiosity. It seems that you're packing a lot of muscles. I couldn't see it when you were wearing the school uniform. Can you let me touch them? She gestured with her dainty hand, before reaching out and touching him, seeing as there was no obvious rejection on his part. Sure enough, they're quite hard. That's extraordinary. What you said before about your fitness was actually a lie. You've obviously been exercising for a long time. Can we exercise together when you have time? I'm curious about how you exercise. Kushida Kikyo looked forward to a training session with excitement in her eyes and even put out an invitation. Oh, this is nothing, between guys, this much would only put me at a very mediocre level of fitness. Just look at them. Those guys are the real masters. Ying Ye Zhenshi had originally planned to resist her advances, but when he noticed Ike Kanji and the others staring at him from afar, he let down his walls and allowed them to see the sight of Kushida touching him up. And when he mentioned masters, he pointed towards the group, but he was actually pointing at Kensudo alone. Besides, there was also the second-generation young master Koenji too. The boy had come to the lesson wearing tight briefs. He was a very narcissistic maverick, who had many of the girls blushing at his antics. That bastard! Is he talking shit? Does he want us to beat him up? How could he let Kushida touch him? Haruki Yamauchi shouted. He instinctively felt that Ying Ye Zhenshi was speaking ill of them. Asshole! This is crazy. That was definitely the guy who made me bump my head just now. How can I let him continue to swindle Kushida? Hearing Yamauchi's words, Ike Kanji also frowned. With your current temper, maybe Kushida-san will believe his words instead of yours. On the other hand, Ayanokji Kiyotaka was very calm. Since their opponent had made his move, he knew they couldn't just go right over and beat him up as these two wished. Chapter 33, Boys with Big Muscles Will Be Respected More. Ike Kanji, who had been very excited at first, put aside his bravado temporarily after hearing what Ayanokji Kiyotaka had to say. But not far from them, Ying Ye Zhenshi continued to chat away with Kushida Kikyo. This scene made Ike so angry that his face turned red and warm. Jealousy arose within him. Ah, that bastard! Besides the group of four, there were people watching them who were weirded out by them. Their odd behavior could even be seen from a distance. What's wrong with them? Kushida Kikyo looked at where Ying Ye Zhenshi's hand was pointing with confusion. He had obviously been talking about Sudoken, so she wondered why the other guys were getting so excited. Maybe it's because they are comparing sizes, and they are embarrassed to have lost in that department. Ying Ye Zhenshi knew the truth, but he didn't want to say it, so he spat out a random excuse. He didn't care if his crass thoughts would annoy Kushida Kikyo. The girl had already fulfilled her role of riling up the boys, so she could just leave now for all he cared. And she hadn't even paid to touch him so willfully as she was now. What sizes are they comparing? Kushida Kikyo was surprised. Looking at her, she had a curious expression on her face. Do you mean muscles? So that's how it is. You boys are also concerned about how big your muscles are. So, boys with big muscles will be respected more by others, hey. Kushida Kikyo seemed to have learned some new and useless knowledge. Ying Ye Zhenshi really wanted to ask her if she actually thought he was talking about the size of their muscles, but in the end, he didn't bother since muscles were easier to stomach than what he had been referring to. Kushida Kikyo stuck by his side like a good friend even afterwards. The teacher of the swimming class hadn't made the students wait too long for class to start. He was a muscular middle-aged man. As soon as he came, he warmly greeted the students and asked them to gather around. Okay, everyone, come and gather around. There are so many people that have asked for leave. Was it 16 people? Never mind. Although he had some complaints he wanted to express about the students who had skipped class, this teacher was apparently very kind and did not pursue the matter. This strengthened Ying Ye Zhenshi's determination to skip class the next time. I'll get straight to the point. I'll have everyone do some warm-up exercises first. After the warm-up exercises, I'll let you get to swimming to see how good each individual's ability is. Swimming classes were taught, of course, so that students could learn how to swim. But sensei, I'm not very good at swimming. Although some students complained that they were weak chickens, the teacher didn't pay much heed to them. Don't worry, since I am the one teaching you, you will definitely learn to swim before the summer break. It doesn't matter if I don't learn to swim. It's not like I plan to go to the beach anyway. That is not okay. It doesn't matter how bad you are now, I will have you surpass your current level. If you learn to swim now, it will definitely come in handy later. Definitely. The muscular teacher rebutted the complaints. His reminder was even more direct than their homeroom teacher. So it will definitely come in handy, hey. Ying Ye Zhenshi, who had been slacking off by the side, processed the useful information. There must be some reason for this new sensei of ours at this school to assert so. After the teacher had said so much to convince them to participate, the students didn't dare to continue arguing and decided to work under the teacher's arrangement and guidance. Most of them warmed up in the pool, while some learned to tread and float in the water. Those who had a modicum of swimming ability were gathered together. It seems that everyone here has a little confidence in their swimming. Let's have a competition then. Boys and girls will each compete in a 50-meter race. I'll be handing out a special reward of 5,000 points to the first-placed students. Of course, since there is a reward, there will also be a punishment. The slowest students must take makeup lessons, so be prepared. The teacher's shouting attracted everyone's attention, and Ike Kanji and the others, who were still peeping at the girls, came back to their senses. Immediately afterwards, they became a little excited for the swimming lesson. Ike was clearly quite confident. He bragged along with Haruki Yamauchi and the others, and the two of them almost got into a fight because of their bragging. Hey! 5,000 points? Although that's a little small, it just so happens that I spent my points too fast this month. 5,000 more will be good. 5,000 points is better than nothing. Sensei, this is going to be so easy. Back when I was in middle school, they called me the flying fish of agility. The attention of the students was successfully attracted by the mention of the points reward. Many people had quickly thought of the 5,000 points as their own. Since the number of girls participating is small, you will be divided into two groups, a group of 5 people in each group, and the student with the shortest time will win. For the boys, the winner will be decided in another race between the 5 fastest guys. The teacher didn't pay much attention to all the bragging and announced the competition rules straightforwardly. 5,000 points. Ying Ye Zhenshi glanced at Ike and the others. Although this amount of points was nothing in his eyes, he had no intention of letting slip these points from his clasp. Swimming was probably one of his main strengths. He remembered why he had learned to swim in the first place. It seemed to have been because of a certain girl. Who it was? I guess I forgot. Usually, he just didn't have the chance to show off, so he didn't bother to show off. But since it was necessary, he would show off. Pretending to be a pig to eat the tiger was all well and all depending on the situation, but if he kept pretending to be a pig, it may just have been the case that he would become a pig someday. T/N, pig equals weak loser. There was no particular reason he wanted to show off now, like for example slapping other students in the face, but it was not like he was one to bully other people for no reason. Now, Ying Ye Zhenshi just wanted to see the reaction of Ike and the others who wanted to get him, but knew they couldn't. Every time he received such a fiery reaction, it would make him feel excited, to the point that even the swimsuits of the girls became a bit dull in comparison. The first gender to go racing would be the girls, and the boys happily sat by the pool and cheered them on. Their looks made the girls feel uncomfortable. Among them, the friendly angel Kushida Kikyo was the object of most concern and the individual who attracted the most cheers. Chapter 34, Swimming Competition / Good Men Are Afraid of Women Harassing Them. In the swimming pool, the shouts of Ike and the others reverberated around the room. Kushida-chan, 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 Kushida-chan. Not only were they cheering her on because of how popular she was, but also because of the fact that they didn't usually get the chance to see her in a swimsuit. Her huge melons bouncing stimulated Ike Kanji, Yamauchi Haruki, and the others, leading to their high-spirited and inextinguishable hollering chant to continue. Amidst all the support from the onlookers, the girls of the class appeared like mermaids competing for first place. Unfortunately, Kushida Kikyo did not gain an advantage due to the chance. Her physicality was a bit above average at best, but given the boys' constant cheering, she wanted to give up the competition. Considering the current situation though, she still ended up finishing the swim. Who cared about 5,000 points? It was absolutely impossible for them to end up in her pockets. In the end, a girl named Kayano Onodera won the reward. It had to be said, though, that the girl was part of the swimming club already and had won by an absolute advantage with a time of 26 seconds. Kushida Kikyo ranked 4th, not because she was better, but because the others were worse. Finally, the girls' competition had ended, and the boys' competition had begun. It was as if the competition to determine who would be the Monkey King had begun. T/N, it's a CN translation, so expect CN idioms and metaphors lol. Those who wanted a girlfriend had to show off in front of the girls. If they performed well, perhaps they could compete for the chance to choose from amongst the best girls in the school, or so that's how simple-mindedly the boys thought at least. Haruki Yamauchi and Kanji Ike were left in the dust almost immediately. Compared to their previous bragging, they finished up at the bottom of the barrel, but the red-haired boy Syudo had gotten a time of 25 seconds, surpassing the girls' first-place swimmer. Although he felt that Ayanokaji Kiyotaka had the energy and physicality to continue swimming, Ying Ye noticed the boy only swam slower and slower the closer he got to the end. What's up with that guy? Ying Ye Zhenshi felt that something was wrong with that particular student. When he had been arguing with Ike and the others earlier, he had noticed the reticent boy remained very calm. Even now, he appeared quite physically capable but was not performing up to par. Koenji-san and Syuda-san have both swam very fast, and it will be your turn soon, Ying Ye-san. I reckon you will be quite fast too. While Ying Ye Zhenshi was thinking about Ayanokaji Kiyotaka's agenda, wondering if he was faking it, Kushida Kikyo, who had finished up with her competition, quietly came to Ying Ye Zhenshi's side again, and sat down directly, talking to him like buddies. She even poked his muscles like they were that close to each other, looking very interested in how he'd do. This woman has been like this since earlier, and now she is even acting like this. I wonder if she is using me as some sort of shield. Ying Ye Zhenshi could see the murderous looks in the gazes of the boys. He was someone who obviously did not cheer on Kushida earlier, and yet Kushida had approached him afterwards. Ike Kanji and the others felt like maiming him on the spot. Anyways, after Syuda's race was Koenji Rokasuk's match, and that monster had scored an impressive 23.22 seconds. There was a burst of exclamation at the time, and the girls laughed strangely as if someone had just said a dirty joke. It had to be said, with regard to such an astonishing time, that Ken Sudo, who had just swam 50 meters in 25 seconds just now, had already received an invitation from the teacher to join the swim club and to participate in inter-school competitions, although he rejected the offer on the grounds that basketball was his sport. Maybe he really wanted to tell the chummy Kushida Kikyo to not touch random boys at will, but looking at her eyes that seemed to house pure intent and have no other thoughts, he decided to give up. He had always heard that good women were afraid of men who harassed them, but why had he never heard of good men being afraid of women harassing them? It was clear that Ying Ye had given up because of the enthusiasm of the girl beside him. With thousands of thoughts racing through his mind, the teacher eventually called him up. He decided to leave her with a final word, as Kushida Kikyo promised to cheer him on. It's my turn, I guess. Ying Ye-san, please do your best. Looking back on it, Kushida Kikyo had just displayed a heart-rendering look of support, as she cheered him on cutely. If it had been Ike or the others, they would probably be too excited to stand up straight. Ying Ye Zhenshi waved and then approached the teacher. He was also approaching the group of boys huddled near the swimming pool. Kushida-chan is my girl. Don't get in the way. Don't think that you can mess around with her just because she is kind. You bastard, I won't let you go if you're still sticking by Kushida later. cunning guy. You're pretending to be mysterious to get close to others. It's disgusting. Asshole. It was a pity that the guys insulting him were not cute girls with disgusted looks on their faces, otherwise, they could have attracted the attention of special perverts. The boys' looks as though they wanted to hit him had successfully attracted Ying Ye Zhenshi's full attention. This has nothing to do with being perverted, this is just pure desire. If I just like seeing the anger on people's faces, how can I be considered a pervert? Looking at the group of four, it wasn't just Kanji Ike, Haruki Yamauchi, Kensudo, and Kiyotaka Ayanokji who threw insults his way. It would be fun to make that group fall apart. Should I have the relationships sour before making them drop out? Are you guys still elementary school students? Are you still at the age where you're claiming a girlfriend, hey? I seem to have last heard of these so-called claiming a girlfriend tactics back when I was sucking my thumbs. Stop saying such embarrassing things. It's no wonder that our female classmates have never approached you losers. That's why all you can do is masturbate yourself to sleep imagining yourself with a woman. That's just pitiful. Please work harder to get a girl in the future. T/N, I admit a lot of the insults flew over my head, so I added my own spice to it. Ying Ye Zhenshi hadn't expected to hear the sort of talk about not approaching someone's girl he had last heard of years back. He didn't care that he was surrounded by the boys at all, who looked like a bunch of fools and left some harsh words. He made it seem as if he would not give up on Kushida Kikyo, and would even enjoy Kushida's company even more. It made Ike and the others' faces go red instantly, making them instantly wish to jump into a boxing ring to fight 12 rounds with Ying Ye. You bastard! Even though there were a lot of guys around him right now, and they wanted to retort, seeing the teacher approach made them shut up. Garbage! He definitely can't swim. In the end, they just watched as Ying Ye Zhenshi walked onto the starting line and cursed at him. From Ike's point of view, the boy had no friends at all, and that had probably been the case in junior high school too. So naturally, it would be impossible for him to do well at activities such as swimming since he had no one to compete against and show off to. Perverted and twisted guy. Chapter 35, The Right to Call Dibs on a Girl on Campus. Poor Kushida-chan, she's so unlucky to have been targeted by such a cunning guy. Just as Ike's mind was full of fantasies, the situation in the swimming pool had taken a turn for the worse. Puff. Beyond Ike's imagination, Ying Ye Zhenshi was like a flying carp, jumping into the water, swimming, and utilizing every ounce of his strength, speed, and skills, as if effortlessly, to successfully reach the finish line in the first place. 22.5 seconds. The teacher was a little shocked when he looked down at the time recorded. There's yet another monster. Crouching tigers and hidden dragons are plentiful in this class. How could there be 3 of such perverts among the first-year Class D this year? Hey, there are still some great seeds hidden here, isn't it? Kawenjiro Kusuke, who had been watching the pool from not too far away, had his fighting spirit ignited. He began to scan Ying Ye Zhenshi's figure very interestedly. Why is his time so good? Looking at Ying Ye Zhenshi's stellar results, Ike thought frantically, since he had been thinking of laughing at him. When he saw the sight of Kushida running to congratulate Ying Ye Zhenshi, he became even more jealous and felt offended by the boy's astonishing performance. Sudo, you absolutely cannot lose to him. Ike was not a contender in the finals race, so he could only ask his friend Sudo to fulfill his wish. Are you stupid? He's clearly been trained. How could I possibly win? Sudo-kun complained. He was being realistic here. If it had been basketball, he may still have put in the extra effort to beat Ying Ye. But for swimming? He was not an athlete who specialized in swimming, and he had only got the time he had because his physical fitness had given him the edge over the others. Although he was a little unreconciled about being beaten, he understood that it was normal for there to be someone better than him at swimming. Hey, Ying Ye-kun is really amazing. As soon as he pulled himself out of the pool, he was immediately greeted by the approach of the beautiful girl, who had been cheering him on softly. He felt it was much like a girl in love approaching him. "Didn't I just say that you would be good at swimming?" Kushida Kikyo smiled excitedly and caressed his muscles a few more times in wonder. He was really too overbearing in the pool. There was no one in the class who could compare to him. Ah, it was just luck. Ying Ye Zhenshi let out a breath and answered perfunctorily. Having swam 50 meters in one breath had allowed his breathing capacity to develop a bit, and had caused him to be out of breath as a result, but he recovered quickly. "Come on, Ying Ye-kun." Encouraging him with a cute "come on," he realized Kushida was really good at motivating people. After a short break, before the class would be released, the excited teacher organized the final race. The fastest 5 boys were going to compete. And with only 20 seconds having just passed, Kawenji Rokusuk, who had also got ashore, looked at Ying Ye Zhenshi with great interest, while standing there in just his briefs. "I never thought that there would be someone like you in the class. That was a splendid performance. But why hide in the corner all the time, gloomy boy? It's just luck." Ying Ye Zhenshi responded stiffly and left. "This couldn't be achieved with just luck. You must have a secret, gloomy boy. You are really quite interesting. To have actually made me lose." Kawenji Rokusuk spoke to himself. Sudo-ken, whose head had bobbed up later, had an ugly expression on his face. Just now, he had been directly left behind by the two of them. Although it was only a matter of 3 seconds, from his point of view, the distance of 3 seconds was unbelievably long. "You really won't consider joining the swimming club? It'll be really good for your portfolio." After announcing the winner of the race without a doubt, Ying Ye Zhenshi was rewarded with 5,000 points and had found himself being pestered by the unreasonably muscular swim teacher. The adult really wanted to drag him into the swimming club and take him to compete against other schools. "As long as you train professionally, you might just be able to compete in the international arena in the future." "No. I'm not all that interested in swimming competitions and swimming in general. It was just a sport he did to exercise. Competitions and the like, why would it be necessary to live for some competitions?" Ying Ye Zhenshi bluntly refused, causing his muscular teacher to take a hit. "Can talented people just do whatever they want like this?" Clearly, he had asked so many people and was desperate to have them swim for the school team, and yet, the swim teacher had been rejected each and every time. Not only was it Ying Ye Zhenshi who rejected him, but also the other students he had taken a fancy to. Either they were not interested in swimming or they just had other goals. The muscular teacher had to leave it be. "That was great, Ying Ye-kun. A lot of girls were talking about you just now. You have a great figure and a handsome appearance. I heard them saying that you are also very good at studying, so as long as you don't stare at others creepily and talk to them more, you will become very popular." Kushida brought him some news of the reactions of the others. It had Ying Ye Zhenshi wondering whether he had obtained the right to call dibs on a girl on campus. "I'm telling you this as a secret, but all the girls were talking about you just now. Someone is already attracted to you. If you keep working hard like today, you might receive a love letter soon. When someone asks me for your number, I'll give it to them directly, okay?" As if she were teaching a child, she informed Ying Ye Zhenshi of how to get in touch with people. "Oh, is it just that?" Ying Ye Zhenshi didn't care much about his reputation among girls. So long as his betrayal of the class was exposed later on, no matter if it was a boy or a girl, they would want to kill him. Fame and whatnot, I'll take it all with a pinch of salt. Moreover, it was too pretentious of him to think that he could change other people's impressions of him just because of a single swimming competition. What right to call dibs on a girl? I'll just put it to the back of my mind for now. Chapter 36, His Wounds / the Heart of a Girl. The boy in front of Kushida really wasn't interested in anything. Even though he had just heard from her that he might be popular among the girls, there was no reaction to this piece of news at all. An ordinary boy would have at least inquired about who was interested in him. Kushida Kikyo smiled sweetly and then said. Ying Ye-kun, you are always being like this. I feel like the load on your shoulders is very heavy and there are a lot of things on your mind. As a boy, you should be more confident and energetic. Remember, you're very handsome, and you are so strong both physically and academically, so be yourself. Complimenting him softly and cutely, Kushida Kikyo displayed an admiring gaze, as though she wanted to raise Ying Ye Zhenshi's self-confidence levels. It would be best if she had Ying Ye Zhenshi know that she was there to support him when needed. If you need any help, don't hesitate to come to me. This was the third person to have said that to him now. The first was Yasuke Hirata, and the other was Hanamiya Chinos. Kushida and Ying Ye exchanged some light chatter. One of them was very perfunctory in his replies, while the other was very enthusiastic, which made for a very strange scene. Okay, okay. I will. Then, I will trouble you soon. With his perfunctory response amidst the bustling voices, the swimming class was finally over. In this past hour, Ying Ye Zhenshi had really attracted a lot of attention. Not only did he attract the attention of the girls, but he seemed to have obtained the legendary right to choose a girlfriend on campus. In contrast, he had attracted the ferocity of many of the boys, who became hostile to him. Even now, they were probably thinking about how to make Ying Ye Zhenshi lose some of his newly gained prestige, and he would not be surprised should something have taken place sooner or later. The teacher left after having announced the end of the class, and Ying Ye Zhenshi walked towards the locker room. Ying Ye-san. As soon as the teacher left the swimming pool area, Ike led people directly up to the lone boy and surrounded Ying Ye Zhenshi. This got the attention of others. Kikyo-chan, what are the boys going to do? Are they going to start a fight? What are the boys doing? The girls were about to leave for the lockers to change their clothes, but they were a little surprised by the sudden situation between the boys. Kushida Kikyo followed their gazes too. What are they going to do? Don't mess around. Seeing that they were already making moves, Kushida Kikyo quickly approached. The loud voice of the group caught the attention of those who had not yet left. The other boys felt that Ike had suddenly become a bit too brave. Did he truly dare to do this out here in the open? Was he really about to beat Ying Ye up? Despite their curiosities, they didn't come closer to the encirclement. At first, there was only Kushida Kikyo on the girls' side who approached the group, before the girls who were with her also walked over. From their point of view, there was no danger to him being encircled in the swimming area since they doubted that the boys would actually be crazy enough to beat him up together. But among these girls, a girl called Kei Kuruzawa, who looked like an absolute baddie, became a little anxious. Looking at the crowd made her feel a little uneasy, but she still pushed forward and walked towards the center. For a moment, they had him encircled though, Ike and the others had already achieved their goal. Ah, Kushida-chan. It's nothing, we're just joking around. Ying Ye-kun is just too introverted and too embarrassed to play with him, so we plan to take this opportunity to play with him. It's just that we didn't expect Ying Ye-kun to resist so much just now and we accidentally tore his clothes. I'm really sorry, Ying Ye-kun. We will definitely compensate you. Noticing the arrival of Kushida Kikyo and the girls, Ike Kanji and the others quickly stopped and explained themselves, although they were a little shocked at the fast arrival of the girls. But the boys' movements were in sync, not because they were shocked by their arrival. Instead, the scene looked premeditated, as he held a bit of Ying Ye Zhenshi's swimsuit in his hand. Several people dispersed from the encirclement, so the students standing around could finally make out Ying Ye Zhenshi's situation. His muscles were dense and well-defined, while his physique was very lithe, which could already be seen from the way he swam, otherwise, he probably wouldn't have done so well in the race. As for the rest of his body, there were wounds all over him. There were a few places that were bruised, and even the wounds that seemed to have come from knives leaving scars. The onlookers couldn't know if they had been completely healed or not. Ying Ye-kun, are you okay? If you don't want to be seen, you better go back quickly or block it with this towel here. Seeing this scene, Kushida Kikyo was also left very surprised. There were almost no spot where there wasn't any wound on his abdomen, waist, and back. The white towel she had been using to wipe down her body was put directly into Ying Ye Zhenshi's hand. Seeing the white towel in his hand, with it still having some of Kushida Kikyo's hair on it, and some of her fragrance, which should have been her conditioner or something, he didn't really want to accept the offer. However, seeing Ike and the others looking at him as though wanting to swallow him alive, he held it in his hands and shook it a bit. Honestly, he was still confused about what had just happened. You guys are going too far. Even if it's just for fun, how could you tear his swimsuit? Kushida Kikyo displayed a rarely seen angry expression. The quality of the school swimsuit was definitely not bad, so for his clothes to have been torn, it showed the effort they had put into doing so. The girls who had come with Kushida with indifferent looks at first also looked at Ike and the others with looks of disgust. This was obviously bullying. That's right, that was too much. Inexplicably, they felt that Ying Ye Zhenshi was just too pitiful. His body had to be a result of bullying from before, and then he was treated as a spastic even in this school. The evil eyes of his that usually kept staring at others were probably because he wanted to make friends with others but did not dare not go up to them to ask, or so they thought. Many of the girls had already come up with a million-word Wattpad romance in their minds about his sorry situation. Especially when they looked closely at Ying Ye Zhenshi's handsome face and muscular figure. He was not overly muscular, just powerful, and he had a very lithe, delicate figure. In fact, this boy's type was very in line with the aesthetics of girls. This finally explained Ying Ye Zhenshi's usual withdrawn behavior and evil gaze. The compassion in the hearts of the girls exploded in large numbers. Chapter 37, The Horny Boys. Ah! I'm telling you, it was all a misunderstanding. Kushida-chan asked us to find Ying Ye to play with him. We only accidentally tore his clothes. That's right, we didn't know about his situation, otherwise we would have tried our best to keep it a secret. Ying Ye-san, you used to be a gang member who often fought others, right? This is a knife wound if I'm not wrong. Ike became a little anxious when he realized the group of girls had gone on the offensive. Looking at the scene, Yamauchi, who had remained calm, defended themselves and diverted the conversation. Ike had already thrown out Kushida's name in the air, so after spouting some nonsense, he implicitly labeled Ying Ye Zhenshi as the bad guy for being involved in gang activity in his youth. Sure enough, when the girls heard that Kikyo Kushida had asked the boys to make friends with Ying Ye Zhenshi, they didn't continue with their confrontational attitude. Is that so? But that's too much. Do you usually play like this? Kushida Kikyo didn't think that the blame for this should have been on her head either. So she began inquiring. This? Well, of course, boys are different to girls. Think about it. Sudo plays basketball, which is a very intense sport. It's just that I accidentally tore the clothes. The quality of the clothes must not be good. This is just a misunderstanding. If you don't believe me, you can ask Ying Ye-kun. We didn't fight, right? We just accidentally tore your clothes when we asked you to hang out with us, right? Ike replied to her question. Kushida Kikyo looked at the boy in question, who seemed indifferent to the entire exchange. So it was like that? Ying Ye-kun, are you all right? How is it? Do you want to go to the infirmary? I can take you. She looked very embarrassed. Probably because of what Ike had said just now, they seemed to have come here because she had asked them to play with him. Therefore, Ying Ye Zhenshi's exposure had something to do with her. It's okay. There's no need. You don't have to worry about it. Nothing much happened just now. Ying Ye Zhenshi noticed that they had finally finished their quarrel before he parted his lips. Just now, he was actually a little confused about what these guys were planning to do, so he had been thinking all this while. If they had really wanted to do something bad, he would have resisted and given them a hard time. Earlier though, they had approached with a good attitude, and then... it was more like they wanted to take off my clothes. Not my pants, just my top, as if the entire thing was planned. Aren't these guys too horny? Have I encountered perverts? Are they gay? So, when he looked at these people now, the look in his eyes was a little strange. He speculated about their purpose for undressing him. Sure enough, he would never be able to figure out what went on in the brains of these weirdos. Look, did you hear what he just said? Ike took the opportunity to interject. Really? Whatever happened just now, you can say it, Ying Ye-kun. If they have bullied you, we will. But Kushida Kikyo obviously had no intention of letting the matter go like that. We can discuss that part later. She also blocked Ike and the others from trying to weasel their way out of the situation, making them squirm inside and look miserable. I don't know either. Maybe because they hadn't been able to find a girlfriend, they were feeling pent up? They took off my clothes as soon as they came up to me. I don't know if that's how they usually play. Maybe it's because they feel that they can't go out with the girls, that they now won't even let the good-looking boys go? By the way, my swimsuit cost 4,000 points, so remember to pay me. Ying Ye Zhenshi scratched an itch on his neck and spoke indifferently. He didn't feel at all distressed because his scars were exposed. He just asked for money bluntly while making a mockery of their sexuality. This way, the look in the girl's eyes became very strange. They need to tear off his clothes to play. If it was a Fujoshi Tien, woman who enjoys fictional gay content, she would look at the boys with excitement right about now. Ike Kanji and Yamauchi Haruki wanted to explain several times while he was speaking, but they decidedly gave up. Anyway, their purpose had been achieved. I'll pay you. But only next month, since we... Ike wanted to wait for the 100,000 points to roll in next month. Giving away a mere 4,000 points would be nothing at that time. Not next month. I still need to buy something for my room, so give it now. Ying Ye Zhenshi straightforwardly refused. They wouldn't even receive a fart next month, let alone points. Even if they didn't have it, he would definitely not let them go. You. Ike Kwanji became upset, but seeing Kushida Kikyo's gaze, he had to give in since he wasn't alone. In the end, he had borrowed points from Ayanokji Kiyotaka. The matter had been drawn up by the reticent boy, so the compensation would naturally come from him. Remember to transfer the money. I'll return the towel after I wash it. Alright then, I'll be going first. Although national laws do not support boys being together, I wish you guys a happy life. Ying Ye Zhenshi took one last look at his condition, before making another mockery of their sexuality. After leaving them a sentence, he finally bid farewell to the girls and gay boys. Don't worry about it. Kushida Kikyo responded that he should not worry about returning her stuff washed as it was only a towel. Well, let's go then. She turned her head with an unfriendly expression on her face, making Ike feel very uncomfortable seeing the look. Kushida-chan, you have been lied to. Why don't you believe us? That guy is bad. Ike Kanji went further and further down his path of becoming a knight. It was a pity that princesses generally belonged not to knights, but to princes. The knight could only stand guard outside the bedroom door. Chapter 38, Ayanokiji Kiyotaka's Method / Kuruzawa K. Goodbye then. If you guys can, it would be good of you to apologize to Ying Ye-kun, whether or not you were just messing around. Kushida Kikyo told the boys behind her without smiling. Okay. Ike perfunctorily responded. It was absolutely impossible to get him to apologize to Ying Ye. While the battle had gone successfully, it was not as successful as they had imagined it would be. Kikyo-chan, what's the situation with that classmate of ours, Ying Ye-san? Does he only speak to you? Is that why are friends with him? Unexpectedly, he looked really good when he was swimming earlier. Yes. As long as he doesn't keep staring at us with that weird gaze, he can obviously be considered quite the handsome guy. Maybe it is because he is used to being bullied before, so he dares not communicate with others. It didn't look that way before, but now, that guess isn't too far-fetched. After the boys left, the girls gathered together and asked about his situation. Among them, one of the Class D students named Kei Kuruzawa was especially curious about Ying Ye Zhenshi. Since having been attracted to the scene of the commotion, and after seeing Ying Ye Zhenshi's wounded body, she seemed to fall into thought. One after another, the girls threw questions Kushida's way. I don't know much about him either. I just feel that he is a good person. He gave his seat to an old man on the bus on the first day. And he doesn't mess around usually. He attends classes honestly, and his academic ability is not so bad. It's just that he isn't able to communicate well with others. Kushida Kikyo responded. She had either forgotten or left out the fact that he had skipped classes on the first day of school. Sure enough, he is actually quite a good person. Ike and those guys are too much. I always knew that they were just a bunch of fools. I suspect that they are just jealous of Ying Ye, Kushida. You should keep looking after him so that they don't bother Ying Ye. That's right. You'd better stay away from Ike and the others. It's not always possible to be friends with everyone. I heard that they also made a rank of our breast sizes too. That's disgusting. Ugh, it's just disgusting to have to be in the same class as them. The girls spoke one after another again, laying down their misgivings. Kuruzawa Kei listened to all the chatting thoughtfully. Not only her, but the other girls were also very curious about Ying Ye Zhenshi. With each of them exchanging what they knew, the group of students walked and talked, and went back to their locker room. If things went as expected, the gossip about him would probably end up in the girls' chat groups soon. As for Ike and the others, that guy really had a problem from the past like we thought. He's just a bastard, but since he came to school with no other friends, he keeps pretending around everyone. But I feel that Kushida and the others feel even more sorry for him now. Oh yeah. That bastard will probably take advantage of their sorry feelings now. Several people gathered together and did not yet return to the locker room. They knew that Ying Ye Zhenshi was still in there. I didn't expect Ayanokaji to be so big-brained to have immediately guessed that there was something wrong with his body. Are you planning to give him the 4,000 yuan? Don't bother giving it. Don't do that. If you don't give it, he will probably go look for a teacher later on, and he doesn't care about acting like that at all. We have to reveal his true colors to everyone. It is up to us to save Kushida from his clutches. The several students exchanged their thoughts. Although they didn't want to give the compensation of 4,000 points, they would honestly give it considering Ying Ye's behavior. The earlier plan had been proposed by Ayanokaji Kiyotaka, when he watched Ying Ye Zhenshi easily beat Sudoken and after he had won the first place in the race. He felt that there was something wrong with that boy, and he was definitely more than what he appeared to be. Moreover, he was actually wearing a swimsuit. No boy in Class D wore a swimsuit. Kawenjiro Kusuk had gone even further and only worn a pair of briefs. To conclude, there were some major points of contention they could target. There had to be some secrets that he didn't want people knowing about just yet. And if his swimsuit was torn, it would be best if what was behind was exposed in front of Kushida Kikyo, such as a tattoo, an embarrassing mark, or an even worse secret. It would directly help to make the girls more vigilant against him. Although they had the chance to tear his swimsuit when they got to the dressing room, if they allowed him to go straight in with his bathing suit, and go back to the lockers to change, then the girls wouldn't find out anything. Subsequently, with the girls not learning of the oddity firsthand, the effect of the plan would be massively diminished. Ike Kanji and the others still had some sense left. If they just spoke ill of Ying Ye Zhenshi, it would probably have only made Kushida Kikyo even angrier. That was why they came up with this plan. After all, it was impossible for a delinquent who dared not even speak in class, to explain himself so long as he was exposed. At least Kushida Kikyo would be alienated from Ying Ye Zhenshi when such a secret was revealed. For Ike and the others, this plan was perfect and served their interests. So, the boys continued to think about the future and how best to continue to expose Ying Ye Zhenshi. During dinner time, at the school cafeteria, Kushida Kikyo had been asked out, by the girl sitting opposite her Kei Kuruzawa, who could be considered a guru in Class D. She was a cute blonde girl with long ponytails. With a feisty personality, she had formed a small clique in the class and was trusted by her classmates, especially the girls. Kuruzawa-san, I didn't expect you to be so forward about this. Knowing the reason why Kuruzawa Megami wanted to speak to her in private, Kushida Kikyo was very surprised. Have you already made up your mind? Have you really taken a fancy to Ying yet? She asked her curiously. Has the hottie in the class found her prey? Kushida Kikyo wondered if she would have the opportunity to learn more about Ying Ye Zhenshi through Kei Kuruzawa in the future. Oh, it's not as exaggerated as you make it out to be. I'm just interested, and since we're classmates, I decided to speak to someone from our class about it. Kuruzawa Kei replied, pretending to be relaxed. I understand, but you still have to ask him out. If you'd like, I can ask him out for you. Kushida Kikyo seemed to have the intention of helping her out. For such matters, Kushida Kikyo had always been very enthusiastic about getting involved. She patted her huge chest fervently, causing the melons to bounce behind the tightly wrapped uniform. Chapter 39, Ying Ye-kun, are you looking for a girlfriend? Kushida Kikyo was a proactive person. No sooner had she suggested helping Kuruzawa to ask Ying Ye out. Ying Ye Zhenshi, who was just about to go out for dinner, looked at the message he received from Kikyo Kushida. Ying Ye-kun, are you looking for a girlfriend? Looking at the words written in the text, he doubted his eyes a little. What's going on now? Ying Ye Zhenshi couldn't understand what the girl was up to. He directly replied to her with a few question marks to show his confusion. As soon as he replied, he received a call. Ying Ye-kun, congratulations! There is a girl in our class who asked for your contact information. Isn't that amazing? As soon as the call connected, a gentle female voice could be heard amongst a noisy backdrop, as if the call was taking place in a cafeteria. A girl. Ying Ye Zhenshi felt that Kushida would have to be too bored to be pranking him. That's right. She's a super cute girl, so how about it? If you have no objections, I will pass her your contact. Under normal circumstances, as long as a boy did not have a girlfriend, he honestly had no say in whether his contact could be passed on. Oh no, Ying Ye-kun, you aren't actually thinking of rejecting her, right? That is too much even for you. Why don't you meet her first, and maybe become friends? It's rare for a girl to be the one to take the first step and ask for a boy's contact info. It took a lot of courage. Kushida Kikyo didn't get an immediate response to her earlier question, so she added a few words quickly. Her voice became softer and quieter as if the person involved was nearby. I understand. Just give it then. Since it was just his contact details, it didn't matter much to him who had gained a hold of it. Good luck. Wait for a bit and someone should contact you soon. The two decided to hang up so that Kushida could pass his number over to the girl. And then, someone else added his school mobile number. After introducing themselves, they decided to meet up in person. Kuruzawa Kei. Ying Ye Zhenshi quickly thought of a certain girl. She was a petite, hot girl in his class, who was familiar with almost all the girls. But as far as he could remember, she was not very interested in boys other than Hirata. Why is she looking for me? With doubts in his head, he waited until their meeting time. After dinner, based on what he would usually do, Ying Ye Zhenshi would rest for a bit and allow his food to digest, before he would go for a jog. Today, however, before the jog, Ying Ye Zhenshi had planned to meet someone. The place they had decided to meet up was somewhat similar to a small park. Except for the occasional joggers passing by, there were some wild mandarin ducks and the like in the pond. It could be regarded as the holy site for dating at this school, and it was also a rare spot at this particular school that was not monitored. This park was also where Ying Ye Zhenshi usually did his jogs. Did she make our appointment in such a place because she is afraid of being seen? Standing under a street lamp, Ying Ye Zhenshi wondered about Kuruzawa's intentions. Sorry to have kept you waiting. When the appointed time was here, the beautiful girl with the long, blonde ponytail arrived. She had on a pair of black socks, a short skirt, cuffs pulled up to just below her elbow, a neatly combed gold ponytail which danced with each of her movements, a school uniform that was slightly open at the top giving her a heroic edge, which made it all too clear that she was a beautiful girl in her own right. She didn't have the slightly buxom sensuality of Kushida Kikyo though. Kuruzawa K was more of a girlish, petite, and cute type of chick. Sorry, I got a little lost while I was looking for the location. Kay had come here running, and since her physical strength was not that good, as soon as she arrived, she placed her hands up against her knees and half bent down to catch her breath. It's okay, I arrived just now too. He replied calmly, but his mind was full of question marks. Who is this? Has she been possessed by Kushida Kikyo? Why is she so easy to talk to today? Was she always like this in the class? Is this a scheme to trick me somehow? Ying Ye Zhenshi analyzed the situation, calculating the probability that the girl in front of him would try to harm him in any way. He had seen how unreasonable this particular girl was in class, especially towards boys other than Hirata. So, I'm Kei Kuruzawa. Hearing his response, Kei breathed a sigh of relief. I'm Ying Ye Zhenshi, hello. Then, the two of them fell into an awkward silence. Standing side by side, neither of them opened their mouths under the street light. She looked at him, while he looked back at her. What's the matter? She was just talking so well? Has she replaced Kushida inside the body again? Ying Ye Zhenshi looked confused. Well, why don't we walk a little together? Probably because she couldn't stand the atmosphere, Kei Kuruzawa finally spoke up. She rubbed his little hands while proposing this idea. Okay. Embarrassed, the two began their slow trot and walked around the small park. The atmosphere around them was a bit like that of a young couple who had just begun dating and had decided to go on a date, but with neither of them striking up conversation first. After walking for an unknown period of time, they came to a small, dark courtyard, beside the small pond in the quaint, little park. The scenery at this spot was good, but it was a bit dark. It would probably have been quite beautiful during the daytime. Now, he could only spot a few of the details from the lights given by the moonlight in the distance. Well, where are you from, Ying Ye? Kuruzawa K finally initiated the conversation. Chiba. Chiba? Wait, is that really you? The bull-headed warrior from Chiba Middle School. When Ying Ye Zhenshi replied, Kuruzawa K spoke excitedly. She seemed to have recognized him somehow. Hey! Ying Ye Zhenshi displayed a strange look. Bullhead or something? I didn't expect this girl to be such a weirdo. Isn't that you? Could it be that I remembered wrongly? Your name is Ying Ye Zhenshi, and you are from Chiba Middle School. That guy is famous in the area, the bull-headed warrior who went out in the middle of the night to deal with a bunch of gangsters. Then because he cleaned up many of the bad students in his school, he was recognized for his deeds but reported. I didn't expect you to appear in this school. Kuruzawa Megami looked at Ying Ye Zhenshi with a serious gaze. Then she spoke everything she could recall. It seemed that besides the weird name drop at the start, the rest of the story sounded much better. Chapter 40, Please Date Me Bullhead Warrior. Ying Ye Zhenshi was dumbfounded. He was left speechless after hearing her saying all this. Should I confirm that it might be me? And what the hell is up with that nickname? Bullhead Warrior? Why does it sound so stupid? But thinking about the name carefully, he seemed to remember having worn a bullhead mask before during one of his many exploits. I've heard of your name a long time ago. At first, I thought you just had the same name as that guy. I really didn't expect that person to be. So, the bullhead warrior turned out to be you, hey. Kuruzawa K spoke cautiously. She was a little afraid of making Ying Ye Zhenshi angry by saying all this. Stop. Stop. Stop talking about all this bullhead warrior business. Ying Ye Zhenshi complained. What the hell is that name? Since the girl he was talking to knew of his deeds so well, it was clear to him that she knew of his past before enrolling at ANHS. There was nothing to hide in front of her since he was already exposed. Don't you like the name? I can remember there were some other names that you might like instead, such as the Chiba Demon Lord, Shadow Demon, Dark Judge, Shadow Hunter, and Crutches Knight. Kuruzawa spoke excitedly and spoke out loud the names one by one. She got increasingly excited as she did so. She seemed to ignore how deeply he cringed when he heard some of the nicknames. Where did you hear of so many of these names? I don't even know of them myself. Ying Ye Zhenshi had heard of some of the weird names like the Demon King and China Devil. But that bullshit bull warrior business was not something that he would ever admit to. On school forums and group chats, especially among middle school students. My middle school was quite close to Chiba, so a lot of people were chatting about you, and there were even fan clubs made of you. Kay explained. It was almost like she was part of the fan club. Because of the Chiba Demon King, many bullies in the nearby middle schools would hold themselves back a little. They were afraid that they would be covered with sacks at any time and dumped into the Tokyo Bay. Ying Ye Zhenshi didn't know about any of this fan club business and whatnot. Oh, so, what do you plan to do with that information? Given that you know so many things about me, you should know that I was arrested some time ago. There probably aren't that many students in this school with a criminal record. And there is only one person named Ying Ye Zhenshi in Tokyo, attending this school. Ying Ye Zhenshi spoke bluntly. Ah, that's what I called you over for. If you don't mind, please date me. As soon as she bent down and lowered her head, her gold ponytail flicked behind her as she confessed sincerely. Please date you. These words echoed in Ying Ye Zhenshi's ears. He had never thought that someone would confess to him one day. And she just so happened to be a beautiful girl. And it was also a girl who knew of the ridiculous things he had done before coming to this school. He soon came back to his senses, after realizing love could take one to the grave. Also, there happened to be some other problems he had to address right now. He took out his mobile phone, unlocked it, and turned the torch on. Well. Kuruzawa felt very strange as she watched him do all this, wondering what on earth he was doing. Students that are peeping over there, is there something you need? Turning his phone around, he shot the light directly out of the small courtyard. When he saw people come into view, he switched on the recording function on the phone. Wow! If it isn't the first-year kid from the other day? What a coincidence! I didn't expect to meet you here, and we came upon such an interesting scene too. Several figures appeared there and then, as Kuruzawa became startled, and hid behind Ying Ye Zhenshi. Oh, so it's you guys, senpais from the year above. As they approached a little closer, Ying Ye Zhenshi could clearly make out the circumstances of the students who appeared. They were the kids from the second year who he had made enemies of. And he couldn't even remember such insignificant characters' names. What a naughty boy you are! How could you have caused trouble so much already? You are in much more trouble than we thought. It's not just us you annoyed, but the trash from Class D is also very upset with you. But because of that stunt the other day, you have pissed off all the students in Class A. The three of them blocked the exit of the small courtyard while talking with smirks on their faces. I didn't expect you to be with such a cute first-year schoolgirl. You've really expended the luck of 8 lifetimes to have been confessed to by such a person. Since we are here now, we will entertain you well, little girl. Hey hey! The appearance of several people blocking the way gave Kay cold sweats. She seemed to be in an even bigger crisis than when she was in junior high school. Both her hands grasped onto Ying Ye Zhenshi reflexively, as if the action gave her a sense of security. Did you just say that you didn't expect to see me here? You are here to block me. What do you mean to say that I offended someone? We just had a verbal conflict before, and it was you who came to find fault afterwards. If you plan to do anything, then just attack me and leave her alone, since Kurusawa is innocent. Placing the phone in Kurusawa's hand, he looked desperate. And she happened to see the big recording symbol on his phone. He, you are really courageous and brave. Then, why don't you come over here? You just need to kneel down and crawl your way here, apologize to us properly, and then I will let you go. Otherwise, not only you, but even your little girlfriend will have a little accident. Ying Ye, having spoken in a soft tone, stimulated the sadistic side of the 3 second-year senpais even more. After hearing the words of the several boys, Ying Ye Zhenshi did not appear afraid anymore and even had an excited smile on his face. Then, the self-directed one-man show began. Chapter 41, Don't knock them out too quickly / knocking out one smelly senior at a time. You guys! Don't come any closer. It's impossible to get me to kneel down. Come fight me if you have the ability, but just let Kurusawa go. Kurusawa, you run away first. What are you guys trying to do? I'll fight you guys. Ying Ye Zhenshi spoke dramatically. He reached out for Kurusawa's waist and pinched her while she was still afraid and confused about the situation. Being pinched like this, Kei was taken aback. At first, one could only hear her yell. But in the next instant, a longer cry rang out. She saw that Ying Ye Zhenshi's feet had landed directly upon the closest senpai, and the trio who had blocked the entrance of the small courtyard were flung out of the way one after another. I'll fight with you, so leave her alone. At first, she couldn't gain a hold of her own senses, but seeing Ying Ye Zhenshi run up to fight the senpais, with his fist landing on the boy's face, causing nosebleeds, she came to. Obviously, the seniors couldn't stand how quickly the tables had turned. They were here to find trouble, and yet they were the ones on the back foot right now. The boys who were kicked away fought back the pain and got up. No, stop fighting. Glancing at the recording sign on the phone, Kei Kurusawa seemed to have come to a realization. Muttering, so that the recording could be recorded, she continued to urge them to stop fighting. Is anyone there? Help! Her feminine cry rang out across the entire park, frightening many of the wild mandarin ducks. But the few people at the scene no longer cared about her. Fists continued to land on Ying Ye's body, yet, even as the wounds under his shirt opened up, he didn't pay much attention to the feeling and kept facing off against the senpais in front of him. The guy most worse off was the one who had been hit by his fist at the beginning. After taking a few of Ying Ye's punches, the boy's nose was battered and bruised and his face became swollen. Eventually, he couldn't see where he was going, and he lost consciousness. Ha! Taking a long breath, he rushed towards the other two and then pushed them away. It had been a long time since he was in a fight, so Ying Ye Zhenshi was feeling pumped up. I don't want you to hurt Kurusawa-san. With a sinister smirk on his face, he kept waving his fists at the senior students who were still standing. You little bastard! The second-year senpais hadn't expected that the guy in front of them would be so ruthless. And his strength was also too scary. What was especially strange was that he kept shouting some bullshit too. They were already feeling down, and yet this episode exceeded their expectations. How many fists does it take to knock people unconscious? Ying Ye, are you okay? One of the seniors had lost consciousness, and the fight still wasn't over, but no one was looking out for them, but instead, the guy pummeling them. The group of four fought each other, accompanied by the screaming of the girl, which attracted some of the passers-by's attention. It appeared that some students had already contacted the school. After all, they witnessed a crazy fight in the middle of an unmonitored area. Please stop! Before he could finish speaking, he was punched by Ying Ye Zhenshi so that his head tilted a little. Before he had time to process the punch, a fist slammed down on him 3 more times. Eventually, he fell to the ground unconscious. "You're crazy. Do you think your actions are going to help you later on?" The last person remaining was scared, and he looked at Ying Ye Zhenshi, who had several fist marks on his body. Even though the senior's opponent was injured a lot, he still sounded panicked. "Don't hurt Kuruzawa-san." As Ying Ye Zhenshi said this, his fists landed on the boy one after another. Hearing the word, the senior student sensed that something was wrong. "Does he want to trap us?" Before he could say anything, a fist landed on his mouth. He couldn't even swing back because of the pain all over his body. Finally, he, too, was knocked down to the ground by the successive punches. In the end, the only thought in his mind was that they were going to end up receiving the short end of the stick after all this. In addition, he could hear Ying Ye Zhenshi sounding as though he didn't want to hurt any of them and was just defending the girl, but the expression on his face was so excited as if he was happier to be engaging in such a brawl, and he had fought harder than anyone else amongst them. How can he KO people with just a few punches? Is this guy really a high school student? He has to be a contender for the strongest high school student in history, right? Where did this monster come from? No one could give an answer to the senior's last thought, as he lost consciousness. It had been a 1v3, with no use of weapons by either party. And the fight had taken place in such a small and obscure courtyard. Even though he had won, Ying Ye Zhenshi was still riddled with a lot of injuries. However, these injuries could all be considered his precious evidence. Looking at the seniors lying flat on the ground with a smile on his face, Ying Ye Zhenshi felt very satisfied. Regardless of whether the seniors had put up enough of a fight to satisfy him, he didn't care. And as for how the school saw the fight, he couldn't care less. The battle was over. But the beautiful girl was still terrified. "Are you okay?" Looking at Ying Ye Zhenshi, who had bloodstains in many spots on his body, Kuruzawa approached him and asked for his well-being despite her fear. She was very worried. It was the first time she had seen a fight like this. At the same time, she could now admire the legendary reputation Ying Ye Zhenshi had built up for himself even more now. The boy was not an invincible demon lord, but just a normal person. In their chat groups and forums, Ying Ye Zhenshi was considered legendary, like a god who had descended to the earth, and when he encountered punks, he would kill them indiscriminately. Even the bad guys in the schools were afraid of Ying Ye Zhenshi and treated him like a god. This impression had misled a lot of people. Cough cough cough. Ying Ye Zhenshi didn't respond, as he remembered that there were still other people here. After coughing a few times, he grabbed Kay. He directly placed some of the blood on him on her body. Although her skin was quite fair and delicate, he didn't think much about what he was doing. In addition, he left a few palm prints on her arms, to give life to the earlier drama he had orchestrated and to further display what had happened here. "Are you okay?" At first, she was worried about him, but Kuruzawa soon reacted as she should. Although she didn't like the bloodstains being put on her very much, Kuruzawa endured it and asked about him again, sounding even more concerned. Even though she felt like she was being used right about now, she was not upset at all. On the contrary, she really hoped this would serve to help her to have more contact with Ying Ye Zhenshi. "I have to get closer to this boy who makes me feel safe." Chapter 42, Sae Chibashira's Suspicions. Kay wanted to switch off the recording and ask him something, but hearing someone approaching, Ying Ye Zhenshi collapsed immediately to the ground. "Ah, it looks like I have broken a bone. Don't worry about me. Just contact the school. Don't touch me. Let's just wait for the doctor to come." He spoke to himself while looking helpless. Seeing Kuruzawa's worried look, he winked at her to calm her down. The people from the school happened to arrive quite quickly at the scene. They arrived after hearing that several of the senior students were downed and had lost consciousness. And the voices they heard just now were indeed them. Even if some places were left unmonitored, there were still people who were responsible for the safety of this area at any given time. What is going on here? Call the school doctors. Are you guys all right? The school did not expect such a thing would happen. At the start, there were only a few security guards, but after a while, several of the school's staff and faculty arrived, as well as the medical staff who eventually arrived at the scene. They pulled everyone who didn't need medical treatment away from the scene, so Kurusawa was naturally taken away. She didn't know how to answer the questions about what had happened just now, so she decided it best to cry and hand over Ying Ye Zhenshi's phone. As for the statements of those downed seniors, there were naturally people who would handle them appropriately. You guys have really got yourself involved in quite something, hey. At night, Sae Chibasara rushed to the infirmary when she received the news. When she arrived, she noticed that Ying Ye Zhenshi was already bandaged and lying on a hospital bed. Kurusawa was also sitting by the side, and beside them, there were other faculty from the school and the student council standing around. Chibasara-sensei, you're here. The people from the school saw that Chibasara had arrived and greeted her. What's going on here? Chibasara-sensei nodded in greeting. She addressed the student in school uniform when asking what was happening. Horikita Manabu looked over at Chibasara before he took out some student council records. This is currently what's been gathered. As far as we know, there is evidence that the second-year students had some grievances with your student, so they ambushed him at the spot where Ying Ye usually exercises, and Kurusawa was accidentally involved in the incident too. Grievances? What grievances? Chibasara-sensei asked confusedly. Earlier this semester, Ying Ye paid a visit to the second years and offended them. In addition, Ying Ye reported on the second-year students and even insulted the second year's D students as being defective. The three individuals from the second year who are involved in this case are the ones who were reported by Ying Ye previously. The problem now is that their confessions have some discrepancies. The second-year students are saying that they wanted revenge on Ying Ye, but in the recordings provided by Ying Ye and Kurusawa, it sounds as though they even wanted to attack Kurusawa. Horikita spoke concisely. All the events that had transpired in his short time at school were basically cleared up like that. It was the first time Horikita had heard about Ying Ye Zhenshi having insulted the students from Class D in the second year previously. Horikita was a little speechless upon learning of that fact, but then he finally understood what Ying Ye Zhenshi had meant back then. Only this boy has the face to make others apologize for something he did too. Second year. Defective products. Chibasara-sensei looked profoundly at Ying Ye Zhenshi as if trying to work something out. What about those second years involved? They are already awake and in another ward. Horikita replied. Matters like this were quite troublesome. If it was not handled well, it wouldn't be weird if a few students ended up dropping out as a result. And they were even students from Year 2's Class A. Right about now, Nagamo was yelling at them non-stop. You can really find trouble wherever you go, Kaoruhei. After speaking, he looked at Ying Ye Zhenshi who had been silent all this while, as if to ask him why he wasn't expressing his opinion on the matter. Don't look at me. Obviously, I was the one being bullied, ha. And Kurusawa-san too. You don't know how much they scared her today. His body was tightly wrapped with bandages like a mummy, and many wounds that were already on his body had split and bled again. Now, he felt the pain even while lying down. How could he care about them in such a state? When the attention was on him, Ying Ye Zhenshi responded defensively. Chibasara-sensei didn't know what to say after seeing this scene. Well, I've finished with all your questions. When can I take a break? Ying Ye Zhenshi commented. Well then, Ying Ye-san should take a good rest. We will investigate this matter and give everyone an explanation soon. The school staff did not stay long either. They left after saying a few more things. Have a good rest and call me if you have anything more to say. Horikita Manabu said. It had been a busy night, so now he almost ran away. Only Chibashara-sensei remained. Was this really an accident? After everyone left, she looked at Ying Ye Zhenshi with a deep look in her eyes. An accident? It really was an accident. I didn't expect them to trouble me because of that. Even Kuruzawa was dragged into the hot water. Ying Ye Zhenshi replied honestly. This was most certainly an accident. Does sensei not believe us? Kuruzawa also replied, dissatisfied. No, I just want to understand the situation better. If it is really their fault, I will give you an explanation. Then, Kuruzawa, if you have nothing else left to do, go back and get some rest. As for Ying Ye, there will be medical staff around to look after him, and I will also keep an eye on him. Chibashara-sensei chased her away. Although Kuruzawa was dissatisfied with having been pushed out. I'll see you tomorrow then. She was persuaded to leave. Chibashara-sensei, just say what you have to say. I'm going to rest too. Not long after, there were only Ying Ye Zhenshi and Chibashara-sensei left in the infirmary. I want you to answer me honestly. How much do you know about this school? Chibashara-sensei asked. From what she knew of his usual attitude during class, the boy in question did not act like someone who was keenly aware of how the school worked. Now, there seemed to be yet another strange boy in her class. Chapter 43, Chibashara-sensei, I am still just a child. Ah, what do you mean? Ying Ye Zhenshi asked knowingly. Just tell me whatever it is that you know. Knowing he was playing around, Chibashara-sensei became upset. Seeing the annoyed look on her face, Ying Ye Zhenshi smiled. After all, his teacher had hidden all these things from him too. I don't know much, but I sort of know that next month we won't be receiving 100,000 points. In addition, there will be competition between the 4 first-year classes, and only those who graduate from Class A will get special treatment from the school. Oh, and that the points we get each month can be used to buy many things. Stuff like that. Just that much news was enough to amaze Sae, who had only begun teaching her new class for a few days now. Moreover, the school had already blocked the news from leaking, and yet he knew so much, even when she herself hadn't revealed anything yet. So all his information had come from other students or teachers. This made Chibashara-sensei very disturbed. He was obviously from her class, but in the end, he hadn't even asked her about any of this info. I really didn't expect you to learn so much in such a short time. So, why didn't you mention it? She fully acknowledged his knowledge, seeking skills, but wondered why the information had not yet been passed around. What do you mean? Ying Ye Zhenshi asked. He had a weird look on his face as he asked back. Don't you intend to have Class D compete with the other classes? Don't you want to be a student in Class A? Chibashara-sensei spoke frankly. And what she got back was Ying Ye Zhenshi's speechless expression. Have them compete? Why would I make them compete? You don't think I will be fooled by you into leading them, do you? You really are a flawed product, Chibashara-sensei. Lying on the bed, he stared into the eyes of the cold teacher in front of him. Ying Ye Zhenshi had already judged that the woman in question had some sort of problem. Defective. Sae didn't want to hear such words coming from him. Back then, she had got to Class B, and even almost graduated from Class A. What would you know? I wouldn't know much, but I for sure know that no matter what class you graduated from, if you have the ability, you have the ability, and if you don't have the ability, you don't have the ability. Do you think it's fair for the current members of Class D that they become members of Class A and then graduate with all the school's perks? At least, from what I have seen thus far, I don't see many of the students in this class being worthy of becoming students of Class A. Ying Ye Zhenshi stared at Sae, as if he knew she had a lot of stories to tell, but unfortunately, he didn't have any wine on him, nor did he want to hear her stories. So he didn't bother asking her about it, as it would make the situation even more troublesome when one became curious. People must rely on themselves. If they want to, they can fight on their own. Sensei, if you really want to lead them to graduating from Class A, why don't you do it yourself? Just like the teachers from the other classes, use some specific words to jolt them in the right direction. You should communicate that well to them, but you don't. Is it that you look down on them? Or do you think they don't have the ability? You look down on them, and so do they on themselves. If they want it for themselves, they will fight on their own after learning the information, so you don't have to worry about anything. The most important thing is that you have no right to accuse me of concealing information, Chibashira-sensei. Maybe you want to stimulate them and let them know what it means to be brave after learning of the shame of failure, but your wishes from the past have nothing to do with me. We are two different people. Don't throw things that you don't think you can accomplish yourself to your students. I am still just a child. Although there may be some other secrets I am not privy to, based on your complaints, there is no doubt in my mind that, Sensei, you are a defective product too, so please recognize the reality of your circumstances. There's nothing wrong with being a defective product. Just take this lesson from me. I accepted that I have problems early on. You. Seeing his straight gaze, and the words that rolled out of his mouth one after another, Chibashira-sae's heart ached unceasingly. She wanted to interject, but was blocked from doing so as soon as she opened her mouth. She stood in front of her student as if everything about her aspirations and past had been seen through, and everything lay in the open. Chibashira-sensei, I'm going to rest now. Even if you're not a good teacher, you should know not to disturb a patient's rest. If there's anything the matter, we can talk about it another time. Ying Ye Zhenshi spoke first. Okay. I really didn't expect that there would be such a person in my class who pulled the wool over my eyes. I truly underestimated you. Chibashira-sae's look of "I will be watching you from now on" was a bit scary. If you need anything, you can contact me. Before leaving, she left a word of advice. What a hassle. I have troublesome classmates, and now a troublesome teacher too. After Sae left, Ying Ye Zhenshi let out a deep breath. He had not yet sorted the issue of the students who had problems with him, and yet another teacher with a problem came knocking at his doorstep. He felt that the future for Class D was very bleak. With such thoughts in mind, Ying Ye Zhenshi fell into a deep sleep. He had long been used to being injured, so this incident didn't affect his sleep one bit. The next day arrived as usual, and the sun's rising was not affected by what had happened yesterday. What's more, many students hadn't even heard about what had happened yesterday. And Class D had directly lost 2 of their students. Kushida Kikyo had been looking at her phone since the first lesson had started. From time to time, she would look at the 2 vacant seats in the class. What's going on here? Neither of the 2 came to school today. She kept sending messages to ask the 2 of them what happened, but neither of them replied, nor were they answering her phone calls. Not only was Kushida Kikyo concerned, but even Ike Kanji and the others who sat behind her were very concerned about Ying Ye Zhenshi's absence. Chapter 44, Between all the D classes I have ever had, this is the worst one. Ike and the boys in the back row didn't just look concerned. They kept complaining about his absence in their group chat. In particular, Ike could be said to be quite excited, though when he mentioned anything related to Ying Ye Zhenshi, he had a strong malice in his tone. Didn't I tell them all that that guy is not well behaved, and then he goes and skips class again today? Sooner or later, his pretense won't be able to hold up anymore. By the way, that hot girl didn't come to school either. Maybe they hooked up yesterday. That might just be the case since that Kei Kuruzawa chick looks like a very casual girl on first impression. Haruki Yamauchi also added his own thoughts on the situation to the group, with his focus on the absent Kuruzawa. The 2 started exchanging thoughts, while the other boys interjected from time to time. The boys generally talked about topics related to the girls or dirty topics. Like who was cute, or who had a better figure, or if one of the girls would make for a good girlfriend, and so on. Kei Kuruzawa was a hot girl who featured quite a lot whenever such topics were brought up. Wondering about her time in middle school, they thought she had fucked all the handsome guys, and yesterday she had set her sights on Ying Ye Zhenshi and went straight to his bed. There was also a topic thrown in the mix saying that she had been eyeing Hirata before but was rejected. I'm so envious. Although she's a guru, but still. I'm so fucking jealous. Obviously he hooked up with her. That Ying Ye Zhenshi is just a piece of trash. Why does he have to trick our Kushida? At first, they talked cynically, but later, their talking turned into envy. After all, Kei Kuruzawa was still quite cute in her own right. The two single dogs, Kanji Ike and Haruki Yamauchi, let out their hormones that had nowhere to go in the chat. Chibashira-sensei. Sae-chan. Ike. Why didn't Ying Ye and Kuruzawa come in today? I can't seem to get in touch with them. Kushida couldn't seem to connect to Ying Ye Zhenshi and her other missing classmate even in the following class. When Chibashira Sae entered the class later on, Kushida Kikyo asked her the question. Oh, they are both on leave. Focus on the lesson and don't think about anything else. Chibashira Sae was in a bad mood. Part of the reason was that she had stayed up late last night, planning to figure out Ying Ye Zhenshi's thought process. The other reason was because of his words. Don't throw things that you don't think you can accomplish yourself to your students. You are a defective product too. She wanted to argue that he was wrong, but when she started teaching, she looked at the bunch of students in the room. She especially focused at the back of the class, where Kanji Ike, Haruki Yamauchi and Ken Sudo were sat. Sure enough, these guys are a hopeless bunch. Between all the D classes I have ever had, this is the worst one. The look on her face was expressionless, and colder than usual, as if everyone owed her millions of yen. Sae-chan, your face looks ugly today. Is it your time of the month? You should drink more hot water. When leaving the class at the end of the lesson, Chibashira Sae could still hear the taunting and teasing words of Ike Kanji and Yamauchi Haruki behind here. God damn, drink more hot water? You guys should just drink some hot magma. Why don't you all just eat the free vegetable set meals in the future? Full of anger, she left the classroom hurriedly, even looking forward to the time when they would have to eat the free vegetable set meal. For the first year Class D, it was yet another fruitless day. After leaving the campus, Sae Chibashida learned about the current circumstances surrounding the brawl from the night prior. She found out the intention of the school, as well as the situation of the students from the second year. The students who had fought him were still being held in custody. Although they had been beaten unconscious, their injuries were not as serious as Ying Ye Zhenshi's, except that they had some dark circles under their eyes and that their faces were slightly swollen. Ying Ye Zhenshi was wrapped up like a mummy and still on the bed. And in the ward. You asked me for leave because you said you wanted to rest, Kuruzawa-san. Chibashira found Kuruzawa when she entered the room. Yeah, I took a rest this morning, but I stopped by to take a look at him when I came out for lunch. Kuruzawa answered straightforwardly. Then you will have to join the classes in the afternoon. Sae responded back expressionlessly. And she didn't continue to bother about Kuruzawa after that. What are you planning to do now? I listened to what the second-year students had to say, and they are interested in reconciling with you. As for the school, they just set aside intervening for the time being and plan to see what you want. Whether it's punishment for the students or calling the police, they are willing to accept it. Generally, for fights, as long as they are not particularly bad, each victim will be given 50,000 points each, and the students will be suspended for a while. If the matter is more serious, the suspension will be longer. If it is extremely serious, they would be expelled or the police would be called. Based on the circumstances this time, most of the injuries are just on you. Although Kuruzawa was involved, she was not injured, so even if you call the police, it probably won't end up as a big issue. Chibashira Sae spoke frankly. This could be regarded as the way the school had always handled things. Unless it was a very serious matter, such as murder, the school would try to intervene rather than hand it over to outsiders. Otherwise, it was mostly left to the students to figure out everything for themselves. No matter what it was they asked for, they would have a supportive attitude. In their view, as long as no one was killed, it was nothing but a small fight. Things like what had happened the night prior, like student fights, were very bad, but this sort of thing, no matter what school you were in, was inevitable and happened almost every year or even more than once. And she left out things she could say. You really didn't mention anything about class points, hey? Ying Ye Zhenshi internally complained about the woman's penchant for keeping things hidden. How about it? Do you have any thoughts on how to proceed, Kuruzawa-san? You are a victim too. Ying Ye Zhenshi looked over at Kei. This woman didn't know what to do, and she came over early in the morning, and then sat and just accompanied him. He didn't know what was up with her, so he just thought of her as some kind of clingy chick. I will do whatever you think is best. Kuruzawa Kei replied in a low tone with a demure look on her face. Chapter 45, Kei Kuruzawa asks Ying Ye Zhenshi straight up. Sae looked at the pair of boy and girl in front of her. Standing beside the duo, she was left speechless. Single dogs shouldn't have had to see such a sight. Kei was meant to be a high school gal, so young and virile. Kuruzawa Kei, aren't you a little guru? Why are you being so gentle? Then, I'll wait to hear their conditions. Oh, it really is too sad to have suffered such a serious injury. Kuruzawa Kei let him call the shots, so Ying Ye Zhenshi would not be polite about her favor. He looked like he would never get out of bed if the seniors didn't give him enough benefits. Chibashira Sae had a look as though she expected it. The boy in front of her didn't seem to care about whether or not they had fought him. She now suspected that the sophomores were the ones being framed. Then, we can wait for them to come and talk about it. Chibashira-sensei looks very busy. There must be something important to do in class, right? If you have some free time, why don't you go take care of your students? Looking at the troublesome Sae sticking beside him, Ying Ye Zhenshi thought about driving the woman away. Your character is indeed very problematic. Chibashira Sae had already experienced the bad character of the boy. Whether it was other students or even the teacher, he completely ignored them. Even the school seemed to be dispensable to him. She didn't know where to start with what she had come for. Kuruzawa-san, I have something to speak to him about. Please allow us to have a moment alone. Chibashira Sae glanced at Kuruzawa. She wanted the girl to leave first. Hey? Is there something I can't know? I was also involved in this matter. Frowning whilst glancing at Chibashira Sae, Kuruzawa Kei instinctively became dissatisfied. It's not related to this matter. It's a personal matter. Chibashira Sae spoke frankly. Personal matter. Kuruzawa had also wanted to talk about some personal matters, so she didn't want to leave. This was a womanly instinct of hers, so how could she allow someone else to snatch her prey? However, the words she wanted to say would not come out. The relationship between them was not yet clear. Yesterday, the events had been too hasty, so she was looking forward to finding Ying Ye Zhenshi early in the morning to confirm their relationship. After all, she had confessed her love, and with the experience they had been through together, she felt that there was a high probability of her being successful in her confession. And yet, she couldn't even get a word about the matter in, as this annoying female teacher came looking for him for something. Chibashira-sensei, I'm not interested in hearing what you have to say. While Kei Kuruzawa found herself in such a dilemma, Ying Ye Zhenshi spoke out. He probably already knew what the older woman was going to say. You. Chibashira Sae became a little annoyed. If you just think about it all day but don't do anything, you won't receive anything, and you can't give anything. As a person, you must rely on yourself, sensei. This is a piece of advice someone gave me before, so now I will pass it on to you. Ying Ye Zhenshi looked at the female teacher who looked to be going through menopause. And then, she opened her mouth slowly. Do everything on your own? No wonder you have such awkward behavior. It's hard for me to comprehend your understanding of this sentence. But, let me tell you something. People live in groups, and everyone has to support and be supported each other. There will always be something one cannot accomplish alone, so I look forward to seeing the day you fail. Hearing Ying Ye Zhenshi's words, Chibashira Sae stared at him firmly, wondering what kind of things he had experienced to think as he did. Finally, she left such a message before leaving. Wow! After the door was pushed open, it closed shut on its own, and Sae Chibashira's figure disappeared. Only Ying Ye Zhenshi and Kuruzawa K were left in the ward. Well, what happened between you and sensei? Kuruzawa asked worriedly. The way the teacher had left made it seem like she was angry with him. And what Ying Ye Zhenshi had said about relying on himself made her a little worried too. Ah, maybe it's menopause. If that's all, why don't you go back and rest? Ying Ye Zhenshi did not answer her sincerely. But this was obviously not what Kuruzawa Megami wanted to hear. Well. There was a little silence as she was slowly mustering up the courage to speak. Speak directly if you have something to say. Under Ying Ye Zhenshi's gaze, she decided to say what was on her mind. About what happened last night, I just wanted to ask about the confession. You haven't answered me yet. Not wanting Ying Ye Zhenshi to give her some messy excuses, Kuruzawa K asked him straight up. Hearing this, even Ying Ye Zhenshi scratched his head as a little headache sprouted within. It never occurred to him that someone would confess to him knowing his character. Well, how about it? Sitting beside the bed devotedly, Kuruzawa felt a little embarrassed when she didn't get an answer right away. This was her first confession. But for her safe future, this was truly the best choice. Well, can you tell me why first? I don't think there is anything attractive about me per se. Even if you have heard those things about me from outside of school, that's not a good enough reason to ask me out, is it? Ying Ye Zhenshi remembered her fanboy attitude and became a little speechless. Do I accept it? Or not accept it? I am feeling a little complicated inside. This is quite a novel experience, and I feel a little bit happy in my heart. But at the same time, I don't know how to deal with this situation. Is the girl in front of me cute? She is really cute. But do I like her? That's not the case. His love was not that cheap anymore. After all, it had been sold at a low price before. Ah, that was the part of my youth I lost. Recalling a specific girl from his memory, he felt a stomachache coming on. Chapter 46, Toolbox +1 / the result. Well, can you tell me why first? I don't think there is anything attractive about me per se. Even if you have heard those things about me from outside of school, that's not a good enough reason to ask me out, is it? Ah, about that. After asking this question, Kei Kuruzawa quite clearly displayed some hesitation and anxiety. In the end, she looked straight at Ying Ye Zhenshi, and mustered up enough courage to speak out her reasons. Youth or whatever, she had no need for it. Friends and whatnot, she also had no need for them. The most important thing was to protect herself. For this, she could and would pay any price. I am a parasite, a weak creature that cannot survive alone. I don't want to be bullied anymore, so please let me be by your side no matter what. I don't want to be bullied. Kuruzawa said and repeated her deepest desire once more. Her whole being was trembling and she looked really nervous, as her watery eyes looked pitifully at the person lying on the hospital bed, like a puppy eager to receive a positive response from its owner. So you don't want to be bullied? Ying Ye Zhenshi listened to her words carefully and didn't react immediately. But he soon became clear of her circumstances. Sure enough, there's yet another problem child here. Class D was indeed a gathering place for defective products. He had thought that Kei Kuruzawa was assigned to Class D because of her behavior as a snobbish guru and poor academic ability. Now, it seemed to him that there was more to the story than met the eye. But she had only revealed this past in a few short words. So, you've been bullied before or something like that, right? So now you are asking me to become your backer of sorts? I should have thought of that possibility earlier. He hadn't paid much attention to the true reason for the confession last night and just brushed it off as the fanboying of a little girl for someone she had heard stories about online. Thinking about it now though, when the girl had said his name yesterday, he got a sense of her deep excitement and heartfelt admiration. Then, he looked at the girl in front of him with a look of contemplation. "Ah, I'm sorry to have to say this, but though your reasons are very good, I refuse." Ying Ye Zhenshi responded without hesitation. "Ah." When Kay heard his answer, she panicked, became frightened, and found the situation unbelievable, and it seemed as if tears were about to flow out of her eyes. Indeed, girls have hearts made of glass. Don't look like that. Just as he expected, women were so troublesome. Was it true that men were destined to be eaten by women? Is it too late to stay away from her now? After a bout of brainstorming in his head, Ying Ye Zhenshi looked at the girl who had taken his confession virginity. "Putting it bluntly, if you are willing to be my tool, I will find a way to help you solve any problem in the future." Looking at the girl who was already in tears, Ying Ye Zhenshi let out a breath and opened his mouth. "A tool." Kuruzawa stopped crying for a moment and looked at him with tears in her eyes. What that woman said just now was not exactly wrong. There is a limit to what one human can do, so we humans must learn to use tools. This is how I started thinking after being arrested the first time. If there were enough tools around me, I would definitely not be arrested again. Become a tool and weapon of mine. You can do whatever you want, but when I need it, act according to my instructions. You don't need to think too much and don't ask too much. Completely respect what I ask of you, and exist just for me, and I will protect you." Ying Ye Zhenshi looked at the girl, after laying out such an awkward proposal, "But I will do anything." Kuruzawa apparently didn't truly understand what kind of existence he was describing. However, it didn't matter to her anymore. "Okay. Then, I congratulate you on making a good choice. But just to inform you, if one day I feel that you are not suitable as a tool, I will throw you away. On the other hand, if you do well, I will reward you. And if you have any troubles, I will solve them for you." Ying Ye Zhenshi reminded her. He didn't want to get a troublesome existence for himself without benefit, and who didn't know what was up. "I will not mess up. Whatever you ask of me is what I will do." Kuruzawa shook when she heard him mention throwing her away. After hearing about the reward and whatnot, she blushed a little, and lowered her head, as Ying Ye didn't know what she was thinking. In this way, the boy and girl came to an agreement in the ward. As for the brawl with the second years, a result was also about to usher itself in. In the afternoon, Kuruzawa was called to class. Only Ying Ye Zhenshi, who was lazily spending his time in the ward, was left. In fact, he was clear about his condition, and there was no issue with him being discharged from the hospital. While the injuries looked serious, they were only traumatic surface-level injuries which could heal with self-care. The reason why he remained here though was just to wait for a satisfactory outcome. When school was over, Horikita Manabu and Nagamo Mayabi arrived at the ward. "Ying Ye-kun, we're here to see you." Entering the ward, the first person to greet him was not Horikita, but the golden-haired Nagamo. Seeing his arrival, Ying Ye Zhenshi came to the conclusion that the matter had come to an end. They would probably have talked about all the details and were here to put the matter to rest. "Hello, Student Council President Senpai and Vice President Senpai." Hearing the title Vice President Senpai, Nagamo's expression became a little stiff. "We came here this afternoon because the incident from yesterday has been investigated and is close to resolving. The second-year students have already admitted their mistakes. They have already admitted their guilt for trying to surround you. However, they have informed us that they did not do anything to Kuruzawa-san." They only said intimidating things to scare her, but they already understand what they did wrong, and are saying they will not commit such a mistake ever again. Horikita informed Ying Ye with a serious attitude. So what? Ying Ye Zhenshi looked at the senior who spoke and paused for a second during his explanation, and then he responded calmly. Chapter 47, Compensation/Grudges. Looking at Ying Ye Zhenshi, who remained very calm and seemed to obviously know what was coming, Horikita decided to be frank with him. Based on the judgment by the school and the student council, all the second-year students who participated in this incident will each be punished with 2 weeks of suspension. They'll also face some further demerits, while the 2 of you affected will receive some compensation. In addition, their class will also have some of their points deducted because of this incident. This is the school's prerogative. If you agree, we can proceed to discuss the amount of compensation you wish to claim, and then you'll sign the letter of understanding. If you disagree with the punishment, you can apply for an appeal here, and we will renegotiate this concern of yours. Oh, compensation, forgive me. It's just a misunderstanding with the senpais, and I don't think there was anything unacceptable about their impulsive behavior, but if you insist. Ying Ye Zhenshi underestimated the tolerance of this school a bit. He had thought that there might be some permanent expulsions from the school or something. But unexpectedly, the result was just a demerit and then a 2-week suspension. Is it because I was not seriously injured, and the main offenders were all beaten black and blue? Or is it because after taking all recounts of the events that played out into account, they felt like I was swindling them somehow? While brainstorming ideas, he wondered about how many points would be a good sum as compensation. Kaohei, I'm here to discuss the points compensation on behalf of the second year's mistakes. As long as you are willing to sign the letter of understanding, we are willing to compensate you 2 million personal points and Kuruzawa a further 200,000 for the emotional damages. You don't have to worry about medical expenses either, as we will take care of everything. Nagamo offered politely. As for how much he wanted to kill Ying Ye Zhenshi instead of compensating him, only he knew. Hey? 2 million personal points? I don't seem to be regarded so highly to be receiving only 2 million. It feels so insincere on your part. Ying Ye Zhenshi looked at Nangamo and frankly said. Well, we can discuss it if you'd like. Nan Yunya really wanted to hit someone, but he suppressed his anger. He knew that it would be impossible to succeed in dropping the issue so easily, but the 2 million was just the amount agreed to be paid out initially. We can talk about it indeed. How about 20 million for me, and 2 million for Kuruzawa? Ying Ye Zhenshi opened his mouth shamelessly, revealing his ambitions. Impossible. It is absolutely impossible to be given such an amount. That's a total of 22 million. Even if I tried to collect that amount from the entire grade, it would be impossible to collect it for you. If you really want points, you should be more serious about it. If it's 20 million points you want, we'd rather they are suspended from classes longer or drop out of school directly. Nan Yunya directly shut down Ying Ye's bold ask. He had underestimated the courage of this first-year student, it seemed. Ying Ye Zhenshi looked at the way Nagamo had visibly recoiled and knew that this sum exceeded their expectations. After all, this was still a school, so it was impossible to earn tens of millions directly from just being beaten up like he was. He then looked at Horikita Manabu. How much does the president senpai think is suitable? Here is the document on previous brawls. You can refer to it. As if he knew that he would be asked, Horikita took out a document from the binder in his hand. It had, recorded on it, some previous mediation situations. It's only ever been as much as 1 or 2 million, or even hundreds of thousands. It seems that the senpai was being very sincere. Ying Ye Zhenshi quickly scanned the sheet. The highest ever paid in compensation was 6 million points, but it seemed that his injury did not qualify for such an exorbitant sum. It was a pity that there were only general descriptions of the injuries in the file and no details. As long as you understand. Kaohei, in this school, one rarely has the opportunity to receive so many points. I dare to tell you that there are not many people in the entire academy who have points in the millions. Nagamo spoke quickly. He wanted to take the opportunity to shut down the conversation. Senpai, don't be so hasty. Tell me, why do you want this matter dropped so fast? Does your reason also have something to do with the way the school works? Ying Ye Zhenshi's interest was taken away from the points, and his attention was shifted to the boy in question. I heard that Senpai is a very powerful person. You are not only the vice president of the student council, but you took charge of your original class, Class B, and in just 1 year surpassed Class A, before ruling over the entire year, and even the former second-year Class A. The students in your year seem to have to take your opinion into account before doing anything. What do you want to know? Nagamo said, as he felt like he was getting a headache. So, did this incident affect your class? Or did it affect you? I heard what Senpai said before. It seems that Class C, Class D, and Class A are all involved in this case, but about Class B, or the former Class A, it seems that they have nothing to do with it. Ying Ye Zhenshi thought long and hard. It's like that, isn't it? So I was thinking. It seems that I accidentally did something bad, so I wonder if this will affect the ruling power of Vice President over your year. If the points from Class A are deducted too much and you fall to Class B, I hope Senpai won't hold grudges against me. Holding his chin, he looked at Nagamo with a smile. This guy's deductions are just too scary. Ying Ye-san, don't worry about this. I won't hold grudges against my Kaoruha. I am only here this time because I am the vice president of the student council. I need to be responsible for the conflicts between my classmates. In addition, I am a second-year student, so I was picked as the representative for dealing with the compensation. Nagamo smiled half-heartedly. He didn't want to leave traces of his grudges. So you won't hold grudges, but you don't deny that my situation has affected you this time. I understand. Looking at the smiling Nagamo Miyabi, Ying Ye Zhenshi smiled back. Chapter 48, Negotiating the Points Compensation. Kaoruhei, let's just talk about compensation now. I'll give you another 1 million points. You've seen all the previous data, right? Many of those injuries were even more serious than yours, and none of them had received as much compensation as you are being offered. Nagamo's expression was a little stiff. He clearly hadn't mentioned anything outside of the compensation matter, yet he was having speculations on his own circumstances thrown his way. He had felt this weird feeling once before, and this was when he was in the student council office when Horikita Manabu was dealing with the situation. Given his discomfort, Nagamo changed the subject forcefully. That's where the problem lies. I am getting much more compensation for injuries that are not as serious as those listed. I didn't think I would have such luck to be able to encounter such a good thing. Therefore, there is only one possibility. Someone is involved in this decision to drop the matter, and the interests of this person are too great. That's why I had a problem just now with the amount, and it seems I have discovered who this someone is. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't have guessed it would be someone like you who is the vice president and a senpai. You didn't pay much regard to this situation at all, and only acted like a businessman trying to get a deal done. Ying Ye Zhenshi looked at the person in front of him, as Horikita Manabu who was next to him raised his glasses and took a step to the side very calmly. I kind of get what you mean now. Nagamo Miyabi glanced at Horikita Manabu. He had thought of what the senpai in question had reminded him about not underestimating how he phrases things in front of this Kaoruhei. So what? You deduced something new, hey? He regained his composure and looked at Ying Ye Zhenshi. It's probably related to a school mechanism that we first-year students don't know about. The punishments that President Senpai said just now should be the punishments they are willing to negotiate with me. So as long as I refuse, the fate of the second year will become more serious. Of course, I may not get compensation in points if I contest the judgment. Ying Ye Zhenshi continued thinking out loud. It's good that you understand your situation. This is a win-win deal. Nagamo stated. So I was thinking. Why give me 2 million in the first place? Isn't it obvious that the remaining students in the class could just break away from those students who made the mistakes? It is impossible for the class as a whole to pool together 2 million for those students. These points are ultimately the loss of the whole class. Or, is it that those students who messed around can just take out 2 million points so casually? I remember that some of those guys were students from Class D, and they wouldn't even be able to gather something like that together. Ying Ye Zhenshi continued to analyze the situation. So, it's unlikely that they could take out 2 million by themselves, so the class must be willing to help them with their own shared points. The only logical conclusion then is that their folly has affected the whole class and so they have to help. Given the circumstances of this school, I believe that is very likely. I am 90% sure that is the case. Just now, President Senpai also said that the students would be suspended, and then I recall that school absenteeism would also result in a deduction of points. If I think about it carefully, is it possible that the scenario I am thinking of in my head occurs? Regarding the deduction punishment, as long as the suspension continues, the class's scores should be deducted too, so, as long as their punishment time is longer, more points will be deducted from their class, and there may be some other situations and mechanisms involved that I am not aware of, with further points being deducted as a result. If there is no problem with this conclusion of mine, then expulsion should also be punished heavily, and the class points should also be deducted if the number in the class is reduced. If it was just the case that suspensions or expulsions resulted in no loss for the class, then it would be acceptable to have them removed altogether. After all, their behavior is so bad. Unless the school has a negative scoring mechanism. If that were the case, then when the time comes, all students would seek out loans from the school, but as far as I know, that being the case should be impossible, as if that were the case, the students in Class D would have all dropped out of school by now. So, my earlier guesses are probably right. In addition, I am also quite curious about the way the school hands out points. At present, my homeroom teacher said that the points will be issued on the 1st of every month, but if we were to drag out this matter to after the 1st, would the points be held back? I wonder if the monthly points will not be issued to our cards because the matter has not been dealt with and because the school does not know how many points will be deducted from the class, so there would be no way to issue it on their end. For these various reasons and circumstances, it seems quite a bit implausible that Senpai is the uncontested ruler of the second year. If someone suddenly wants to give him 2 million, either they were being kind to the recipient of the money, or the recipient was useful to the other party in some way. So, Ying Ye had to pay close attention to the pie in the sky. Why have you gone so quiet? Could I have guessed wrong? That would be too shameful. Or are there still more things I haven't worked out? Ying Ye Zhenshi looked at the two students who were silent, with a look of embarrassment. I'm wondering about what you have experienced so far, to have come up with these sorts of strange deductions. Someone is just doing you favors, and all you can think about is all this shit. What a horrible and twisted mind you have. Naturally, Nagamo had read some of Ying Ye Zhenshi's information beforehand, but he felt that the bio presented was very limited. His ability to judge and observe was truly quite amazing. And this guy was actually in Class D. In his eyes, he suspected that this boy was hiding a bigger problem, which the school didn't inform them of in the student bio. I'm just an ordinary high school student. Why does Senpai have such strange ideas? Looking at your expressions, my guesses should all be right. At least, most of them are probably right. This makes me feel more at ease in this negotiation. How about giving me 15 million points based on this information? Ying Ye Zhenshi said. Impossible. Nan Yunya gritted his teeth and responded. 15 million. Why not just rob me? He didn't even have 15 million. Seeing that the other party was going to get rich overnight, he felt more uncomfortable about the fact that the boy was going to make money than that he was about to lose money. Even if my classmates were to accept it, it is impossible for me to accept this. It seems that the Vice President Senpai's control over the year is not so solid after all. If the year group had been perfectly integrated, this would have been but a small matter. Ying Ye Zhenshi smiled. In fact, having the blame on oneself was normal. Everyone was still a student. If they did well, people would naturally follow them. But if they didn't do things well, no matter whether it was their own fault or not, they would have to take the blame for the mistakes. This was the unfortunate reality of being the leader. Chapter 49, 6 million points / join the student council. 5 million points. That is my limit and what we are willing to offer you. If you don't want to take it, you can proceed however you wish. Nagamo spoke in one breath. Even though it was only 5 million, it took a lot for him to hold himself back from jumping on Ying Ye there and then. 5 million, hey. Ying Ye Zhenshi began thinking. Hey, I know you are collecting points to transfer to Class A. Even if you went to the other classes and earned a lot of points, that was still not enough, right? I can also guess that you probably don't want that matter leaked out right now. Hey, you don't want your classmates to know that you betrayed them, do you? That little girlfriend of yours is probably going to quarrel with you if she were to find out what you did. Seeing that Ying Ye Zhenshi didn't intend to agree directly, Nagamo impatiently took out his trump card. He had already investigated Ying Ye Zhenshi's situation before coming here. Oh, I didn't expect that Senpai would be so well informed about my matters. But as long as I don't admit it, and if my homeroom teacher doesn't take the initiative to say anything, will they believe you as an outsider? Plus, it'll still be you Senpai who will go and talk about the class grading system. Will the school not go after you then? Ying Ye Zhenshi retorted. Let's just say, he was not afraid of the students of Class D anyway. Could it be that they would then go to beat him together? Even if they brought a few more people over to beat him up, he would probably earn enough compensation to buy the entire school. Believing it or not is their business, but it will be very troublesome for you if the news spreads. And whoever is the subject of this news will still be confronted anyway. Nagamo replied stiffly. It seems that this is the compensation Senpai has settled for in his heart. But I still want to raise it a little bit more. Since the highest recorded amount was 6 million, I want 6 million. There is also the compensation for my classmate, which can't be any less than what was previously offered. That little girl was frightened so much. 600,000 in compensation for her should be fine, right, Senpai? Ying Ye Zhenshi had already understood the greater situation. He decided to be reasonable and bring down the amount from the earlier 15 million. The second year's rivalry had nothing to do with him. Now that the information he gathered it was confirmed, he would just accept the benefits quietly. As for how those students who troubled him would be dealt with by their peers in the future, that was entirely their own business. Senpai, are you really planning to bargain with your Hey over this amount? Ying Ye Zhenshi looked at Nagamo as if he was still willing to bargain, and spoke before the older student could. Humph, fine. President, you have heard it all, so let's draw up the agreement. Nagamo Miyabi looked over at Horikita Manabu. He hadn't expected to have been left so miserable after being troubled by the mischief of a few unlucky classmates of his. Although he wasn't paying the millions from his own pockets, and it was all the students' money from a class points pool, it still made him very unhappy. It's been sorted with you now, but what about Kuruzawa-san? Horikita asked. I'll call her over. Ying Ye Zhenshi also thought of rewarding his first tool with this little gift. Obviously, she had been left saddened earlier and sent back to classes. Now that she was summoned again, fortunately, everything would be fine with this show of goodwill from him. 600,000 points. When receiving the news, Kuruzawa-K's eyes widened. She didn't even know what to say about the unexpected compensation amount. With her current situation of being on the receiving end of 100,000 points a month, as she believed, this was actually half a year's worth of points in one go. That's right. After signing this agreement, tomorrow, I will send the points directly to your ID numbers. Nagamo beside them confirmed. It would have been great if all the first-year students reacted like this little girl. She is easy to fool at first glance. Kuruzawa Megami looked at Ying Ye Zhenshi, as though asking for his opinion. I have already agreed to it, so you can sign the contract if you have no objections. Ying Ye Zhenshi spoke. Then, I have no problem with it. Thinking about the 600,000 points made her excited, so Kuruzawa nodded her head. 2 copies of this agreement will be stored with you two later. Now that they had all agreed, Horikita Manabu began to look over the agreement once more, before he signed it and tucked it away. Nagamo handled this matter as the representative of the second-year students, in addition to Ying Ye Zhenshi and Kuruzawa K. Senpai, let's hang out together when you have the time. After signing the agreement, Nagamo left hastily as if he wanted nothing more to do with Ying Ye. The boy, however, saw him off warmly. I really didn't expect you to be so cunning, to so quickly have. Horikita was originally going to say something since he already knew that the points Ying Ye Zhenshi had collected now was already 20 million. As long as the installments of the other first-year classes were completed, a lot of points would be credited to his account in the next 2 months, plus the points from tomorrow, which was already 20 million. But seeing Kuruzawa K was still in the room, he didn't continue what he was about to say. It's just luck. This is all thanks to the help you gave me, President Senpai. Ying Ye Zhenshi smiled. Kuruzawa K watched on. This is all so confusing. Why do I not understand what they are talking about? Moreover, what's up with the student council president, and why is he so familiar with Ying Ye Zhenshi? Ying Ye feels so powerful. Taking advantage of the time we have, why don't we discuss the matter from last time? Join the student council. If you agree here, I will register you when I get back. Horikita Manabu raised the matter about Ying Ye joining the student council again. He's inviting him to the student council. What? Kuruzawa K's eyes widened. Okay. Ying Ye Zhenshi did not waver in his response this time. It was definitely not necessary to integrate into his current class. He would rather have others adapt to his antics than have to blend in with them, and he knew he had already cut off any chance at building a relationship with Class D. But the student council seemed to have quite a lot of power. Since he could be at the helm of a lot more opportunities there, he just decided to join since he was invited so sincerely. Chapter 50, Returning to Class. Since you have agreed, I will guide you appropriately. Horikita Manabu wanted to say more at first, but he looked at Kuruzawa K who was still in the room and decided not to say anything. I'll let you know when the formalities are done. After leaving a final word, he turned and left. Kuruzawa K felt that she was in the way and had caused something to be delayed. But soon, her thoughts drifted back to the 600,000 points. I will transfer the 600,000 points to you tomorrow. Although she was very moved, she didn't have any plans of taking the compensation for herself since the exorbitant amount had nothing to do with her. Just put away the 600,000 points in your account for now. It won't be so easy to get this many points in the future. Save as much as you can. He didn't want to remind her with such an obvious prompt at first, but considering the situation of Kuruzawa, Ying Ye Zhenshi would not have been surprised if the girl in question spent all the money within a month. This. I understand. I'll save it for now then. Kuruzawa rarely wanted to save money, but regarding this 600,000, she decided she was going to keep it solely for him. As for Kuruzawa K's inner thoughts, Ying Ye Zhenshi couldn't have known what she was thinking. Now, what he was thinking was whether he should continue to be lazy here for a few more days. He would rest for a few days before leaving since someone was already going to reimburse him for the time he was out of classes. After the idea was finalized in his mind, he looked over at K beside him. Ying Ye Zhenshi thought of a certain individual in the class, before thinking he had found something for this girl to do. Is there something wrong? Facing Ying Ye Zhenshi's gaze, Kuruzawa asked obediently. She was also looking forward to his first proper instructions. You should try and socialize with more of the girls every day. Ying Ye Zhenshi spoke frankly. He was trying to recall the circumstances of Kuruzawa from his memory. Ah, yes. Except for a few of the girls, I have most of their contacts, though I have basically none of the contacts of the boys except Hiradas. Kuruzawa became a little worried about whether the boy in front of her had taken a fancy to someone else in the class. She became increasingly worried about the misunderstanding she had conjured up in her head. Have other people join your circle, especially those who can study well but are not so good at communicating. Find and approach them and establish a connection. As long as you can succeed in doing so, they will become your own important weapons. That way, it will be impossible that you will be bullied again. You don't need to find me to solve the problem either. Ying Ye Zhenshi said directly. But in Kuruzawa Megami's ears, it sounded like he resented her and found her to be a burden. It was like he was saying, "Woman, why don't you just rely on yourself?" What? Is there a problem? Not knowing what was going on in the girl's mind, Ying Ye Zhenshi simply felt that she was unwilling or unable to do it. There's no problem. I'll do it. Hearing his query, Kuruzawa was startled. It is also best to improve your own academic ability. This will be beneficial both in school and in the future. You can also use this excuse to communicate with those students who are good at learning but not interacting. It is best to ask them about subjects they are good at too. Borrow more of their homework and ask more questions. It's important to ask questions to push forward the communication. Ying Ye Zhenshi was worried that the girl would not be good at this sort of thing, so he surprisingly reminded her. It was very convenient to do such things while acting like a cute girl. Like that Kushida Kikyo. As long as Kuruzawa opened her mouth and made these meaningful connections, those school bullies would refuse to engage in beef with her. This was the method of pushing people away indirectly so that they didn't play the fool. That sounds good. I will do it. But this still had Kuruzawa very nervous. She was afraid she wouldn't be able to do it well and would let him down. And Ying Ye Zhenshi was equally as helpless in reassuring her. After the two sides exchanged thoughts, Kuruzawa left. I hope your friendships can become stronger. Watching the girl leave, Ying Ye Zhenshi finally allowed himself to get some rest. The matter of the second-year students had been settled for the time being. Unless they went crazy and tried to kill him, no one would come to trouble him at the current time. Then, there was the matter of him joining the student union, but he was just waiting for the president to notify him of the process. More than a week passed, with Ying Ye Zhenshi being strongly prompted back to class by Chibashira-sensei. Either she hurried him because if he didn't go to class all the time, she thought it would affect the class, or because she simply didn't want him to rest for too long and get so comfortable. Back in the first-year Class D classroom. It was still the familiar lively scene, with various small cliques gathered and dotted around the class, intermingling with each other. When Ying Ye Zhenshi entered the classroom, he attracted some of the students' attention. After all, the person who had been on leave and disappeared for more than a week had appeared, which made them all a little bit curious. Ying Ye-kun, you finally showed up. As soon as he arrived in the class, Kushida Kikyo greeted him with a smile and seemed relieved. Kuruzawa from the other end of the class saw this scene, which made her very upset. But they had said before that they would communicate via their mobile phones in class. So she didn't get close to him to wish him well. Morning. Ying Ye Zhenshi replied. Then, he sat on his seat. I haven't seen you for so long, and sensei said you were on sick leave. Are you okay now? I wanted to visit you several times, but you didn't reply to my texts. That was too much, Ying Ye-kun. Aren't we friends? Even though Ying Ye Zhenshi had sat down, Kushida Kikyo didn't want to let him off and spoke even more enthusiastically as soon as she approached. She had even more complaints in her heart, but she was already used to this man's weird personality. Ah, sorry. I haven't looked at my phone much recently. This was naturally a lie, as he had obviously seen it but didn't want to reply. Ying Ye Zhenshi was all too sure about the fact that if he replied that he was in the hospital, this woman would definitely come to care for him immediately. Ah, that damn kindness of hers.
Thanks for listening.